Plaquemine Parish Council, April the 27th, 2023. Meeting is now called to order. We'll have roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. We'll move to the next item, please.
2, executive session, there are none. 3, proclamations, there are none. 4, status report by the parish president.
Mr. President.
All right. I'm sure that we all got the administrative order there with all of our water departments, okay? Later on, we were talking about trying to work through this, the preparedness with the generators and all. We're going to back off of that right for the moment because we need to address this right here because these are going to be mandates that we are going to have to do something. So with that being said, later on, like I said, we're going to rearrange, the needs for that preparedness ordinance. We signed one of the first contracts this week for the West Point Lahash water plant. The electrical contractor, got that. That's moving forward. And I know Robert Morgan and them, they're starting to kind of clean it up and start doing some painting around there too, because that was one of the deficiencies on that administrative order. Had a meeting with the Tallgrass and the CPRA last night with Councilman LaFrance. Get that process going. That's going to be a work in progress right there. We're dealing with grants for elevation, grants for restore to rebuild or buy new. So that's something that we're going to have to work on right there. I see later on, I want to thank the Empire South Fishing Rodeo. They made a donation of $5,000 to the parish, but designated to be used. I know one is at the playground right there in Empire, and the other is at the Empire Boat Harbor. So I guess what we need to do is we need to, put the money in and then designate the money for those areas there so that we know that's exactly what we're going to do. On the way down, I talked to Eric Scrimetta, the Public Service Commission. They have a program, so I know one of the wants and the asks and the needs for that park right there is lighting. They have a program in the Public Service Commission that they will come in and replace the lighting with LEDs at no cost. So we're going to be able to get a little bit more with that $2,500 there. So, and then just on the other thing that happened in the last 2 weeks, I think we had a pretty good meeting with Poppy last week with the state of the parish there. I don't want to go through it right now because it's quite lengthy, but I think we sent a pretty good message out to the public and throughout the state as well. So, okay.
Any comments from the table? Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I had a chance to go and meet Mr. Manuel Gutierrez dealing with the pump station. And one of the things we requested to have you come and visit because the Pearl Hatch and the Bellevue pumping station, I can't even describe how horrible it is. One of the things I'm concerned about, I know we talked about making a loan for pumping station, but they told me that, and I don't know how true this is, that we're paying $40,000 a month for those temporary pumps that we got. The Bellevue pumping station was built in 1971. They say the life expectancy for the stuff is 30 years. We got equipment that they don't even make parts any longer for. And so I'm wondering, the resolution I saw to getting $12 million loan, should we be wasting that money and getting parts, or should we be looking at buying new pumping together? Because if we spending, and they told me we had about 4 pumps, so $40,000 a month for 2 years. Seemed like to me we ought to be able to buy a new pump. So anyway, the conditions is bad. I told them that I will see you today. I'm really asking that you come, and I'm hoping some other council member come and let Mr. Manuel, who been doing this a while, to show you the deplorable condition. If they have a hurricane, the people that deal with our pumps would be in trouble. They don't have a quiet house. They already below issue. Then I found out just on day before yesterday, they pumping water, they responsible for pumping water, but Electric Coal is actually pumping water into our dishes at a certain time of day. So it means our pump operator got to just adjust our water based on the amount of water they pump. And I think I just showed you the picture of that, and I just got those yesterday. So I'm really suggesting, Mr. President, that you, and I'm asking other council member to come over and we can have a half a day to visit these pumping stations so these people I can tell you what we need, because the Bellevue, the basement is bad. They can't even close some windows. So if a hurricane comes, the people that work there is in danger. It's really in danger. They don't even have a quiet house or whatever you call these houses. They're supposed to be there protected. I mean, I can't even describe because of all the technical language, about vacuum pumps and this pump, but they were showing me these things that sitting here. He said, this haven't operated in 10 years. This haven't operated in 20 years. This been messed up and this been messed. So the fact that we're paying $40,000 a month for something, and they say we have 4 and we've been doing that for 2 years, add how much. So I'm hoping that in this loan that we're doing, we really assess whether we should be buying new pumps and stop the pump thing. So anyway, I'm suggesting you come, and I'm hoping other council members come, because I can't even describe it, because all the technical stuff was beyond me. But I'm asking that we set a time up where there's several council members can come over and visit that pumping station.
You yield?
Yes, I yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from the table? Mr. President, I would ask that we'll take a good look at our ambulance service, give us a report on how we can improve the ambulance service. I know we having problem getting EMS, but I think it's a serious situation that we really need to look into. And if we have to appropriate some money from the emergency funds or wherever it have to come to, we have to really take a good look at our ambulance service. Thank you. Mr. Konovich.
Well, that was my District 9 update ambulance service, and I talked with Jeff about it. If you don't have enough ambulances, that is an emergency.
Right.
So I know they don't want to spend that money because the hurricane could eat it up in one day. But not having enough ambulances throughout the parish is an emergency. The little girl over here, how many other ones, you got to wait for ambulance. If they will across the river, if it's on a run, one's got to come from Belchase or one's got to come from over here. And if the ones are on a run, but Belchase has it better because they got an agreement with Acadian and West Jefferson where them ambulances could come. So we might need to see about moving that one down further, or posting it somewhere where it could go quicker either way. Thank you.
Reverend Evans.
And I want to thank the parish for putting that new ambulance on the east bank of the river, because we need it, because unlike Boothville, other area, you got the Post Health medical people, Belcher's got Middlecrest. So for us to have that new ambulance, it means a lot. So, and I'm really glad that the parish saw enough to give us that new ambulance, and I hope we maintain it on East Bank. So thank you all for that.
I just want to say, Reverend Evans, this council here, we are committed to doing the right thing. Whatever it is, they are committed in doing the right thing. Things that was done in the past, I got the commitment from these councilmen here that they're going to do whatever that needs to be done. That is right. The directors?
Yes, thank you, council members. I had a conversation with, for lack of a better term, the acting director or acting manager for EMS. And yes, we do have some less than adequate equipment as far as ambulances in the parish, and that could be addressed just with some money for repairs. But the biggest issue is lack of bodies. We have 12 vacancies in the ambulance department, And it's just lack of people. There's a nationwide shortage of help in the EMS service, not just us locally, but nationwide. And Mr. Konovich, you're correct. We do have some agreements with West Jeff and Acadian, but sometimes when we make the call to those guys to give us a hand, they're short-staffed also, and they just don't have the staff to come and help us out either. That is the problem in itself. It's just staffing, and with COVID destroyed our workforce across the board, not just EMS, but EMS is suffering, and it's just a lack of bodies. There may be some things we can move on the chessboard to help us out, but that's the problem. We're short-staffed.
And it's not because of the lack of funding. Some of these positions are funded. So, I mean, and that's, you guys are supporting that right there.
Ms. McCarty?
I also spoke with the acting director for EMS. And one of the concerns that he brought forward is that our pay rate, same problem that we're having with the port, the people who might work in Plaquemines Parish, who live in Plaquemines Parish, who want to work in Plaquemines Parish, are being paid $4 to $5 more. So we pay $13 an hour in Plaquemines Parish for an EMT paramedic, and Acadian pays $18. So it's hard to get somebody to stay here and work here. I would like to talk with the administration about making a presentation to Holy Cross and see if we can't enter into an agreement. The federal government has grants for people who train in the medical field, that if they work for a certain number of years, their tuition is removed. So we may be able to get people who are going to radiology school or something along that field, not going directly into nursing, but also have to take AP classes to go into EMT or a paramedic and work here for a while. And then we have the federal government pay for their license and tuition to go further at Holy Cross. And they're very close, and they have a great medical school there. So that's an option that we might look at. Thank you.
And while we're on this subject, that's why the situation that we're in, that's why the hospital in Port Sulphur is very, very important. Whether you for the millage or if you're against the millage, that hospital is very, very important. Is there any comments from the audience? We'll move to the next item, please.
4A, update by charter directors.
Done already.
I think we did it. Okay, we'll move to the next item, please.
On the charter director?
Yes,
I just want to personally thank the charter directors for the amount of work that they've been doing on the East Bank of the river as it relates to the Davent Community Center, trying to get the pool together. And the work with the Marco they're doing is trying to make sure we get the roof and start paying the Davent Center. I would say that they've been over here so many days, it's unbelievable. And I see a lot of work on the park the last few days. I mean, I've seen over 12 employees just in Davent at that park. So again, I personally, at the Councilman District 1, know the work that you ought to be doing. And I really thank you for the support that you have been giving to these East Bank projects.
and how many days you say they've been over there, Rand?
None of your business.
That's why I can't get my building
None of
fixed
your
over.
business. None of your business. None of your business.
Thank you for those comments. We'll move to the next item, please.
5, bids and advertisements. There are none. 6, beer and liquor licenses. District 5 has one.
Mary Alice Ontario, I'm sorry. Thank you. Mary Alice Ontario with Stud's Tavern
Yeah. Well, I have Mr. Conovich first that queued in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Buras YMCA 36342 Highway 11, have a Bonko Party fundraiser. And then Buras YMCA 36342 Highway 11, gonna have a tailgate cook-off fundraiser.
Ms. McCarty?
Okay, for District 5, we have Mary Alice Ontario with Suds Tavern that would like a license. Thank you.
And I have one for Reverend Elroy Mackey for Diamond Park, the Powerful Living Ministry. They're having a revival on June the 1st till June the 4th.
I'll offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Conovich, seconded by Mr. Mitch Jurtich. Any comments from the audience? Comments from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0. Next item, please.
7, building permits. 7A, construction permits.
Could we take item 1, 2, 3, and 4 in globo?
High Point Gas application number 2023-214, application date 3/28/23, remediation along a 20-inch main pass Franklinton pipeline and 26 Olga Gate 6 loop pipeline. The use of shallow draft equipment to access the locations to install free span supports Fort Bayou and Bayou Plaquemines on east bank of Mississippi River. 2, Locks LLC, application number 2023-222, application date 3/30/23, drill the Mustang East Prospect B. All other structures were permitted with Mustang South Prospect A. Breton Sound Block 24, east bank of Mississippi River, council member Edwards. Locks LLC, application number 2023-220, application date 3/30/23, drill the Mustang East Prospect A, install case and well protector, well separator platform with walkway and 2 4-inch flow lines and 1 2-inch gas lift line. Breton Sound Block 23 and 24, east bank of Mississippi River, councilmember Edwards. 4, Shell Pipeline Company LP, application number 2021-595, application date 7/12/21, proposed anomaly repairs on existing 20-inch Delta crude Narren to Norco pipeline east of Bay de la Chenier area. Councilmember Jurasich.
We have a motion by Reverend Evans,
Yes.
seconded by Mr. Jurtich. Any comments from the audience? Table? Machines is open. And the measure passes 8-4, 1 abstention. We'll take the next item, please.
B, Bowl Sioux Holdings LLC, business occupancy 21178, Highway 23, Point Celeste, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered. Seconded by Mr. Newsom. Any comments from the audience? Table. Mr. Conovich?
Have they started this job yet?
Mr. Beers, could you come to the mic, please?
Anthony Buros, Jesuit Bend. The answer to your question, council member, on this particular item, no, we have not started on this item yet.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any more comments from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Jurgen?
queued in.
Mr. Jurgen?
I'd like to offer to add an item, amend the agenda to add an item to the agenda.
So you're looking to move to item
Item
11A?
11A, yes.
Item 11A?
A resolution expressing Plaquemines Parish opposition to HB 576, which provides for restrictions and requirements applicable to commercial menhaden catch to provide for the duties and responsibilities of the Department of Wildlife, to provide for coastal exclusion zones, to provide for the taking of menhaden, and to prohibit use of certain vessels and equipment in the exclusion zones, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer.
Second.
Okay. There's an offer to add them to the agenda.
Yeah, offered.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
A
Machine-
resolution,
We got to vote on it.
Yeah, machines are open.
This is to add it to the.
This is added to the agenda. And the measure passes 9-0.
Now I would offer for suspension of the rules.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurdich, seconded by Mr. Schultz, for suspension of the rules.
a resolution expressing Plaquemines Parish's opposition to HB 576, which provides for restrictions and requirements applicable to commercial menhaden catch, to provide for the duties and responsibilities of the Department of Wildlife, to provide for coastal exclusion zones, to provide for the taking of menhaden, and to prohibit use of certain vessels and equipment in the exclusion zones, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for unanimous second.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurdich. Do we have a unanimous second?
This is this.
Wait,
this-
we still need to vote on the suspension.
Right, for
Run the
suspension.
suspension
So
right
we
now.
have that already. We have an offer and
We
second.
got to vote
Right.
on it.
Councilmember Jurisic, and then seconded by Councilmember Schultz.
Okay. For suspension of the rules.
Now it's to vote on it.
And the measure passes 9-0.
So I'm gonna offer now, just, make a motion to offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurdich
Unanimous second.
and a unanimous second.
A resolution expressing Plaquemines Parish's
I don't need to read it
opposition.
again. I'm gonna hear it in my sleep.
Any questions from the audience?
You know, every year this bill come up in the legislature. We gotta stay strong with it. We need our business in the parish. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is there any more comments from the audience? From the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0.
Thank y'all.
While we on that item, could we take 11A1?
A resolution authorizing the president of Plaquemines Parish government to sign a CEA with Louisiana Department of Health for purposes receiving a public health infrastructure grant, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offer.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McCarty. Any comments from the audience? Table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We'll go back to the,
Can we
That
go
was
to
just
the,
for the suspension. That was just for the.
That was the vote on the suspension. One more vote.
A resolution authorizing the president of Plaquemines Parish Government to sign a CEA with Louisiana Department of Health for purposes receiving a public health infrastructure grant, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered. Seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Machines are open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0.
Mr. President, Chairman, can we actually bring up the part with the Fisherman Concern System presentation?
What item, please? What item?
It's the, under new, the very last thing on the agenda,
11D2. 11D2.
11B.
Okay. Can we move to item 11D2?
Fishermen and Concerned Citizens Association presentation.
PowerPoint?
Mr. Edwards?
Yes, yeah, the members of Fisherman Concerned Citizen, the president here, Mr. Director Northeast, and I also think Mr. Clarence Brock is going to be a part of the presentation.
Drexel Narcisse. First of all, I want to thank you guys for expediting the Ferris ramp situation. I forgot to get up and thank you guys. Thank you for that. I think everybody got a copy of this in front of them. So I might not have mine in the same order. So the first thing we want to talk about is the storm water runoffs, the storm gates. There are 4 of them. And those things will cemented closed. So if you get water in here, how is it going to get out? If we get flooded, the pumping stations, if nobody is there to pump the water, somebody gave permission to have those storm drains cemented closed. So there's no water.
Those covers?
Yeah, there's no way for the water to leave out. If we get flooded, it seems like they're trying to flood us out.
That was to get the levee system in the 100-year protection system. They had to do that.
The other part in that, Mr. Director, 'cause when I first heard about it, we had a meeting here in the council chamber in order, the Pearl Ferry was taking out the federal levee system. In order to get the Pearl levee system back in the federal levee system, they had to close those things and then use the pumping station to relieve the water that was coming through the cover. So that was done, and now the Pearl levee system is now back in the federal levee system, but we was taken out because of those culverts.
So are they planning on putting them back? I mean,
No.
We just talked about the condition of the.
And I'm with you 100% on the
Yeah.
condition of it. That's why we have to make sure, because that happened, we got to make sure the pumping system is right. But that, if they didn't do that, we wouldn't no longer been in the federal levee system. So that's why that was done, because when I first heard about it, people say they putting I was like, wait a minute, what y'all doing to these banks? So when they came and told me how to cover it, and then they met with the people at the pumping station, it was saying, so they created the other vacuum pump there to relieve that water. So the pumping station is responsible for that. And that's why I just talked to the president, we got to make sure the pumping station work. But if we wouldn't have done that, if the past wouldn't have done, Pearl Ash would no longer been under the federal levee system, which would be a serious problem for us.
You wouldn't get any federal money to help with the pumps or the levee.
Okay, but the levees haven't been touched since Katrina. The levees on the West Bank have been raised up, but the levees on the East Bank have not been touched since Katrina.
They have, because they took $60 million from my district and moved it over here and built the levees up.
What about the shells to put on top of the levee? Before hurricane season gets here, we need to put shells on top of the levees.
That, I think that's Mr. DeMarco or either one of those directors have to answer that question.
We're fixing to start working on that. We're about to start working on some of the roadways on the top of the levees now. The good news is the annual inspection has been done, and they're actually much better than they've ever been before, even though they are tore up pretty good. So that's a positive sign there.
Thank you. The other thing is, if we get flooded out, they're telling us that we're gonna have to elevate unless we won't be able to get any permits from the parish.
Well,
That's every port in the
that,
parish.
yeah, let me just say that, no, what happens is if a hurricane come and we lose our houses, most of the people on East Bank and other part of the parish will not be afford to elevate the house. And even if I want to, build a house and I don't have no insurance and I say I can build a $70,000 house, our rules because of FEMA saying that I can't get utility to my house. This council member could tell you the very first meeting we had, I brought all of them together and said, man, we got to change this law. We met with Representative Steve Kalitz around the same issue. The Attorney General at our last meeting asked us to pass a resolution supporting him challenging RISC 2.0. And one of the things that they can tell you, I say, well, look, RISC 2.2 is okay, but what about the fact that if we try to build our houses, we can't get utility unless we elevate it. I've been talking to people all in Washington really about this issue. It have to really be changed because we're being penalized. I think Mitch would talk about, he talked on that very same issue. It's something that's beyond this council. FEMA is forcing this council hand that if they permit people to build houses that are elevated, then all insurance in Plaquemine Parish would be jeopardized. Representative Steve Kalitz told us that he was coming with something in September. And my word to him was, what about if we had a hurricane in June? You know, I've been on this since I've been on this council to change that because only by the grace of God we haven't had a hurricane. Because if we have a hurricane tomorrow, we have a lot of young people who brought land, thought that they can put a house on it, and they found out it can't be elevated. And so I've been at this tooth and nail on it, trying to get Congress. I talked to Representative, what's the name from, used to live in Algiers.
Carter.
Talked to Representative Carter about the same, his legislative staff. I said, look, can you help us draft up a piece of legislature where every council member can do what the Attorney General asks us to do to get every parish that's being affected by this ordinance forced to elevate your house if it's 51% damage, forced to elevate. We can pass a resolution statewide, send it to our governor, and our governor send it to our legislative delegation. That was a thing that we've been working on, this council been talking about, but that's beyond the council. I'm telling you, I've been fighting that because, I call Mr. Brock the Donald Trump of East Bank, If I lose my house, I probably can't afford it. He probably can elevate his for $200,000, but I can't. So this is really not only about wanting to, it's personal to me because I know if something happened tomorrow, I can't afford to elevate my house. I can assure you this, and every member of the council can tell you, this has been something I've been talking about since January and still having people in Washington looking at it. The other thing is, not only FEMA, we take the position that HUD should be involved in it because it's a housing issue. This council on last week introduced a proclamation called Fair Housing. And I said we don't have fair housing just because of this FEMA requirement. Am I right about that? It wasn't against, and I voted yes, but I was saying we don't have fair housing when you're forcing people, and that's not the parish, but when you allow an agency like FEMA to force people to elevate their houses. My position, and one of the things Mr. Brock had in this year, my position has always been you're acting people to elevate their houses so you don't have to deal with protecting the wetland and putting money in protecting it from for wind surge and all that. Because I tell everybody whose house is elevated 14 feet, once the wind get on the roof, it's gone. So, Reverend Giles had a video of his house elevated, showing the wind tore the whole back of this house up. So I can tell you this without anything working on that seriously, try to get it changed. But it's not the council can't do that. It is something that have to happen in Washington.
Thank you very much. Also, we have metal pipes coming from White Ditch to Phoenix, or maybe even further. And those pipes are old, and they probably got asbestos in them
Well,
on the outside.
let's talk about the water situation. I remember, and I wasn't on the council, Mr. Bartholomew was on the council, and Mr. Brock brought some brown water here to the council. And I like, wow, from Phoenix. I was really, so, Mr. Wade, you know Wade Terrence, right? Wade Terrence went out the next day. And so then, since I've been on council, Mr. Brock came again and said, Phoenix has the water today. I'm talking about this morning. I went from one end of Phoenix to every end. When you saw me this morning, this is what I was doing, and talked to residents to find out. This is from where Michelle, your sister-in-law, live. I started there. I went by James Griffin house. I went by where Michael Miller lived. I went by Bernice Raggis. I stopped by where the Bentley family used to live. I went down there where Cat Augusta lived. I went all over Phoenix. I went to St. Joseph. I went to St. John Land, talked to residents, and asked them about the water situation in it. Savon Trent, because I called Mr. Roberts, I said, man, you know, where does brown water come from that Mr. Brock do? They have never been able to do it. This morning, for the very first time, I didn't know this. How long Mr. Brock's in front, because I went by Winston Thomas, that's the last bit. They got a culvert open there. How long that water been coming out of that pipe? How many years?
It's been there a couple of years.
Okay, and so and the reason why I'm saying that, because I was surprised to see that in front of Winston Thomas house, which is not a far from your house, that we've been running, it's not a fire hydrant, but a temporary thing they put, and that water been running 24 hours a day. And Winston say he think it been longer than 2 years. He think it been for almost 6 or 7 years. And so I was surprised that amount of water coming out there, and I didn't see any brown water. I am very serious about brown water, Director. I've been trying to find out. And I called residents personally on the phone, said, look, do you have brown water? And they said, Rev, you gonna make me go open my faucet? I said, no, if you had it, you wouldn't have to open your faucet, because you know if you got brown. So anyway, personally, as a council member, I say I cannot, especially when you say everybody know downtown Phoenix is my heart and soul. So I was trying to find out, so this is from this morning. This is from this morning. I went from one end of Phoenix, and my house is at the beginning of Phoenix. I did my church, I did my house, I did my mother's house in the back. I went on Winston Thomas. So I went all through Phoenix to try to find out. I called Robert, and I talked to Wade. Wade said, Reverend Everett, I promise you, I've been going open that up. I don't know where that brown was. I asked Mr. Brock, did he have asbestos pipe? Because everybody, not only did I go to ask the people, did they have brown water? And they said no. And when I talked to some people, said, well, Mr. Brock showed me his brown water. And so I don't know. I'm just telling you straight out. I'm still trying to find out where that brown water in Phoenix at, because I haven't seen it. And I've talked to a lot of residents. This can be verified by calling people, asking them, do you have brown water? So this is just from the day. So where the brown water is coming out, I don't know. I would tell you this. The area from Phoenix to the area called the White Ditch, we know that area has been empty for a while. But Phoenix itself, you know, from everybody I talked to, this is the kind of water that people have.
All right. If you want to see the brown water, I can show it to you. I only got to open one hydrant, and that water going to be brown.
What?
You won't be able to see through the bottles.
Okay.
Every time the hydrant is open, it's disturbing the water, and the water is brown.
What?
I got the water. First one I got was, it was after the pipes, all the lines busted, and we lost a lot of water, and that disturbed that brown water, and that's why I got the water. The day after Christmas, the 26th of December. The other one was in January, when the pipes was disturbed.
What year are we talking about?
December 26th of 2022.
2022.
And I got the other bottles, and I came back in 23 because some parish officials, some of the water guys did something to the hydrant again, and that water was brown again. So I got the second one, and I think it was in January. But I can show you how it gonna become
Well,
brown.
I wish you would, because
Nine out of 10, that water probably have the particles, in it, but it's not. You can't see by eye. You got to pull samples.
no, I'm talking about
You got
what
to
you
pull
showed.
samples and have them sent to the lab, and you got to look for two things: magnesium and iron.
I'm not questioning the part about what's invisible. I'm talking about what's visible to, when I opened the system, but I didn't wait till it run. I just let the water come in. And what I'm trying to understand is that if you have this water hydrant open, not too far where you live, coming out, no brown water. I'm just saying I had to wait to go in and check to see. When I talked to Miss Raggers, she said, well, he come regular opening those pipes up. Wait. With Church that he been going opening that up over, and he haven't found no brown water. So I'm hoping you could get together him and show him the spot where you got the brown water, because I've been trying to find out where that brown water is. And the reason why I'm trying to do, because the problem, Tavares Trent want to address that issue with pipe, because Brickway have some serious problem with pipes, and we had a community meeting that Mr. Hinckley was at.
You have more metal pipes than any part of the parish.
That say that again?
We have metal pipes, a lot
Right.
of pipes. Way more
And-
than Phoenix.
And we identified, Mr. Hinckley said to me, we identified where all those pipes at, and looking at replacing those things. So I said, I want the same thing that you're doing at Brickway to happen in Phoenix. But again, we trying to find out where the brown water.
I could show it to you whenever.
Okay.
You
But get together with him. and-
Okay, listen, can you get together
Yes.
with Reverend Edwards? Because,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
You don't
so let's move on to the next item, please. What else you have?
Yeah, I want to say something on the elevation part. What part is the parish making rules and put these sanctions on us? Like I have a building now. I want to have a permit, and I'm not allowed to have it. But take me out of the scene. I don't even want that building, a permit for that building anymore. But there's other people. There's a young man. He went to Afghanistan, and he served this country, this parish, this community with his life, and he made it back home safe. He came back and he bought some property, purchased a trailer, a mobile home, came back and went to permit off to get his water and stuff and electric. They told him he's not allowed to live here on his own property. He can't have it because the elevation part. Now the man got the trailer is still on the lot. It's been over 6 months. He paying a note on the trailer that he can't even use. Do the parish have anything to do with the rules of going to the permit office and we can have a permit? And nothing the parish could do?
We got to follow FEMA's regulations. I think it was Livingston Parish by Baton Rouge. After they flooded, they let them rebuild their houses on the ground, and, well, FEMA came back to them and said, if you don't pull every permit and make the people, we had 3 choices: move out your house, elevate it to a certain level, or tear it down. They wouldn't have flood insurance.
All right.
They did the same thing here. I asked them, can we do a agreement? If I want to build a house on the ground, I'll sign an agreement with FEMA releasing you of any responsibilities. They said, nope, what if you sell it? I said, well, put all that in the agreement. I can't sell it, can't will it, can't give it away. When I'm gone, it's gone. They said, nope, can't do it. FEMA won't answer to Steve Scalise and them. They're going to have to subpoena them to come tell them how they got the RISC 2.0.
And that is part of the reason why we joined the AG's lawsuit on FEMA 2.0. And not only that, but St. Charles just filed a separate lawsuit against FEMA last week. So a lot of people we're fighting back, but right now our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do.
But these are some of the answers we've been asking. Nobody give us none of these answers that. Or
Been saying the same thing for 4 years.
And Mr. Brock,
because Mr. Conovich, y'all have levees. They have not touched our levee. Eventually, a storm will come. The water will come over the levees from Phoenix to Perla Hash.
I
Can't come back.
I gave this scenario to FEMA. I said, suppose I gotta raise my house today 13 feet. Got a 21-foot levee on both sides of me. Katrina comes, I'm still underwater 8 feet. So what good did it do me spending $100,000? I said, take from St. Bernard to New York or Jefferson Parish to Mexico. How high is their levees? They don't have one.
They don't have
I said, but I got one and I gotta go up. They have no answers to answer that.
Mr.
Well-
Chairman, I'm gonna ask that we move on. I appreciate everything.
I'm gonna move on.
We can do this at town hall meetings and discuss this kind of stuff. We understand, we've been working on that stuff and we really appreciate y'all coming up to the mic, but
Yeah.
we wanna get moving on with the rest
I
of it.
understand, but I'd like to close with this part. We will flood out and we cannot live back in this area. But the question is, who want our area? Who want our area? Is that big business? And politicians want our area?
Mr. Schultz?
Mr. Chairman, can we go to 9O? The attorney is here and would like to be able to answer all of our questions that we may have about this item.
9O?
Yes, sir.
A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not to exceed $12 million of revenue bonds of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Councilmember LaFrance.
Also offered,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add
Make an amendment.
make an amendment to this resolution.
Okay,
I'd like to remove line 94 through line 102.
I think it's changed with the changes, Ronnie. I think it's 99 through 107 now.
Is it changes? Is it,
I'm showing, it's section 5. You're talking about section 5, correct? It's
Correct.
Lines 99 through 107.
make that correction, lines 99 through 107 to be removed as an amendment.
you so offered?
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Newsom to amend and seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the audience
On the amendment.
Voting on
on the amendment? Could you read the changes?
Section 5 is the section that's being removed, and it reads as follows. Appointment of a municipal advisor. The issuer hereby retains Government Consultants, Inc. to act as its municipal advisor pursuant to the provisions of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act and the rules promulgated thereunder by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The issuer hereby acknowledges that it is represented by the MA and will rely upon the advice of the MA with respect to the bonds. The fee to be paid the MA shall be payable solely from the proceeds of the bonds when and if issued, and the amount thereof shall be subject to the approval of the State Bond Commission. The parish president is hereby authorized and directed in his discretion to execute any contract the MA may require with respect to the engagement.
So we're removing a municipal advisor in this case because this is a loan that's offered by the state. It's managed by the state. It's not something that we're going out in the marketplace and acquiring, and so it's not necessary for this particular loan. That's why it's being removed.
Okay.
Vote on the amendment.
Can we have the amendment to add the FEMA stuff too, right? The FEMA language?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, there was a section 6 that was added that will now become section 5 that reads as follows. FEMA reimbursement. It is the intention of this council that the revenue bonds authorized herein will will be in part be used to acquire, construct, or replace capital assets, and when feasible, Plaquemines Parish government shall comply with the guidance contained in CFR 200.449 to ensure maximum allowable reimbursement of financing costs, including interest by FEMA.
Mr. Newsom, you good with that addition?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And your second, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from the audience?
Well, this is.
You good? Any comments from the table? Dr. Gui?
Mr. Burris.
This is just we're just voting on the amendment, right? Okay.
That's what I wanted to discuss,
Okay.
the amendment. So, I mean, I really understand the importance of a municipal advisor when it comes to our position in, in creating bonded indebtedness. But this is not, this is a state, this is a state bond.
This is a revolving loan fund that's ran by the Department of Natural Resources, that's given by the federal government.
So they've got that covered.
And so we've got that covered. That's a fixed rate. We don't need any advice on that because the loan is what it is, and it's managed by the state. So there's really no advice to be given. You accept the loan on the terms offered by DNR.
Any more comments from the table? Reverend Evans?
Yeah. Again, my concern again is related to the pumping station. Again,
So this is just the amendment, so we're gonna vote on this. We do have the engineer, Principal Engineering, who did the damage assessments on all of the pump stations. I will tell you that 6.5 million of the total DNR amount we're looking at acquiring is for Bellevue alone. So Bellevue itself will be getting, according to the estimate, $6.5 million of the total 12. So, but the engineer is here to talk about that. He can answer any questions you may have about any of the individual pump stations, and the actual damage assessments that were done. We also have bond counsel here who can explain further to you, why we're going before the bond commission on that and how the loan will ultimately work. But let's go ahead and do the amendment, and then when we bring it up for the actual vote, I'll ask the bond counsel and also ask our engineer who did the damage assessments to kind of explain to you all why this is necessary and why we think it's reimbursable by FEMA.
Okay. Thank you. Any more comments from the table? Machines are open. And the amendment passes 9-0.
I'll read it and vote on
We're going to offer as amended.
it. Yes.
Yep.
it has to be.
Also off as a,
She doesn't have to read the.
No. So we have a motion by Mr. Lloyd Newsom, seconded by Mr. Konovich.
But you offered it originally.
Okay.
You offered it originally, and we have a second by Councilmember Schultz.
Okay. So there's no need for your motion. Yes, sir. Okay.
So,
Any comments?
so let me just preliminarily say that the purpose of this is so the parish can have the cash flow to move these FEMA projects along.
Okay.
FEMA, we do not have the cash flow to start these projects. And so without the cash flow, they don't get off the ground. And if you all remember, I think a year or two ago, the administration made more or less the same argument. So that's the same arguments we're making today. It's necessary to get these projects off the ground. And essentially, when the cash comes in, they will be used solely for these projects, and they have to be used for these projects because that's what we're securing the bonds for. And when FEMA reimburses us, then that's the cash that comes back in. And so that's the purpose of this. I think it's a 2.5 fixed rate over 10 years. And it's also my understanding, I think we can pay it off sooner, correct? We can pay it off sooner. So as the reimbursements come in, if the council desires to pay off the loan sooner, with the reimbursements from FEMA, we can do that at that time. Obviously, that decision will depend on how much cash flow we have at the time, but that is certainly an option available to us. So that's what this DNR loan is about. I think most of you all really want to hear from the architect and the engineer about the individual pump stations. So we'll ask him to come up now. And then if you have any further questions about the loan process, we do have bond counsel here who can answer some of those more specific questions.
Please, sir. Please state your name, your address.
Andre Monod with Principal Engineering, 22266 Level Street, Abita Springs, Louisiana. Some background on the damage assessments and the repairs to the pumping stations. We were retained by the administration to perform damage assessments at the drainage pumping stations. On the east bank, we looked at Pointe-a-la-Hache, Bellevue, and Bel Air. On the west bank, we looked at West Pointe-a-la-Hache and Point Celeste pumping stations. The purpose of those damage assessments was not to find everything wrong with the station, but to find everything wrong with the station that could be attributed to Hurricane Ida, and thereby be eligible for reimbursement by FEMA, if that makes sense. So the distinction is, it's not everything wrong with the pump station, it's everything that could be paid for by FEMA, that we could reasonably tie to FEMA. Therefore, the parish is eligible for 90% reimbursement by that agency. So the reports that we prepared, I believe you were provided a copy in advance of the meeting. That was the intent and the focus of those reports.
Any comments on the table? Mr. Champagne?
You said that your money was dedicated to fix things that FEMA said can be repaired that are FEMA reimbursable. Are those things components that will make the pump operational, or you get right there and they're not going to make it operational? Because I can't say that FEMA has a track record that I'm very fond of, particularly when you hear the testimony from the gentleman we had earlier, some of the situations they're dealing with, some things Reverend Edwards. So I'd like some clarification on that. Will this money get us operational?
It is our intent to do projects that will leave you with complete and usable pump stations. There will be degraded components not tied to Hurricane Ida, which could use additional repair, but the pumping stations will become operational. For instance, on the East Bank, Bellevue suffered significant damage, and the reason for that high price tag is damage to engines and chain drives, and the replacement of those items is extremely costly. Many of the other stations, repairs to the damaged components alone, repair alone and not replacement, can accomplish the goal. But if, let's say, for instance, if there's corrosion on steel pilings at one station and we can't reasonably say that was caused by the hurricane, we are not addressing that corrosion, just as an example.
And this is no different than we work on everything. We submit anything and everything we can to FEMA on a claim. So if there's a chance it was destroyed by Ida or hurt by Ida, and we can make that claim, we make it. And then sometimes FEMA will come behind and ask for additional justification or additional documentation to support that claim. But it's no different than how we handle all of FEMA claims, right? Because we have a basis for moving forward. We think we have a basis for the claim. And then as the projects close out, there may be some of these issues that come up.
And that's my only concern is, we're dealing with, Reverend Edwards pumps, and you get the pumps up and say, they're not operational because they won't pay to hook the electricity up. I know I'm exaggerating, I'm just giving an example. I want to make sure
Yes,
that what we get is a fully operational system.
Right, we don't want a car with no wheels. We're not going to do that.
I yield.
It is possible that FEMA may say some of the things that we claim as eligible or not, in which case you would just not receive reimbursement for those items, if that makes sense. But we're going to have to do everything to make the stations operational, remove the temporary pumps, and get going again.
Do you have a copy of the report that we can see your finding? I'm sorry.
Dr. Gouy?
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stations, pump stations, and I see a dollar amount designated for each pump station. If there's an overrun at one pump station, and we don't have enough money authorized here to be able to take care of that overrun,
We would use parish funds. This alone does not prohibit us from using parish funds to cover any difference. And to the extent it's eligible for reimbursement, those parish funds will also be reimbursed at the 90-10 ratio. The 12 million figure is the reason the number is capped at 12 million is because that's all that's available at DNR.
well, I wouldn't want us to take away from one pump station because we ran over on another. And I just wanted to make sure that this is definitely, particularly Bel Air, if we run over, then I want to make sure the others' estimates are still, they will still hold. That
Yes,
we're not
sir.
gonna- Okay, good. I'm good.
There is uncertainty in the scope. When you get into some of these things and you open it up during construction, you may find additional damage. To the degree we can tie that damage to Ida, if it's pulling a thread out of the Hurricane Ida sweater, to use a metaphor, it will be eligible for reimbursement. So the project worksheets that are submitted to FEMA can be edited and adjusted as additional damage is discovered during construction. And there's precedence for doing that. So the pie can get larger if it needs to, rather than just cutting one slice in favor of another.
And not only is it precedent, it happens more often than not, that these project worksheets are amended as the projects move along.
Reverend Edwards?
Well, Chris was saying he was just sending this to me. I was trying to find out, see the report that's showing what damage you saw and your assessment, what would be repaired. That's what I was trying to see. And he said, we have that?
Yes, yeah. Rennie sent the other,
Okay, I didn't see
In the
that.
email, there's a link. In the email, there's a link. The file was too large to do individual attachments, so there's a link. If you click that link, it'll bring you to the reports, and the Bellevue report is part of that. And I can help your assistant get that printed out if you need some additional assistance with that. Did you bring the report with you or no?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and read the report, and then any additional questions you have, we can put you in touch with Principal Engineering, and we can go over it together, at a meeting.
But when I talked to Mr. Manu yesterday, when I initially got it, I called him, so he was aware of everything you had in there, and I said, well, this good to go. So he's saying that you're not gonna turn down any repairs. So I just want to let you know, I called him and they're fine with.
Right, so FEMA only repairs what was in existence. That's the rule. So and to the extent that any of these, we want to do what's called betterments or improvements above and beyond, nothing prohibits the council from doing that as part of the project and to move the thing along. It just won't be reimbursed by FEMA.
You?
I'm good.
And you said these pumps are chain-driven?
The East Point Lahash pumping station, the Bellevue pumping station use chain drives to transmit power from the diesel engines to the pumps.
Is that obsolete?
Yes.
Are you planning on updating it?
At Bellevue, one of the chains popped during Ida or catastrophically failed. That drive will be replaced. Its twin at Bellevue will be replaced. We are attempting to find justification to replace them at East Point Lahash. They're very expensive. It's very expensive to replace those chain drives with right angle gear drives. So if possible, we will replace all of them. As Rennie pointed out, the council could decide to spend the money eligible or not for reimbursement to make that repair.
So that would be a
And they-
change order?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But the replacement of all the drives is not in the scope. What's in the scope now is replacement of the drives at Bellevue only.
Okay, all right. So we have other pumps on this side or anywhere in the parish that are chain-driven?
Yes, the Point of Lahash station is chain-driven also.
And you plan on updating that?
We brought the manufacturer, who doesn't manufacture them anymore, but we brought the manufacturer down to photograph, document, take measurements, and produce reports on the condition of those chains in hopes of justifying to FEMA that the strain of operation during Hurricane Ida caused irreparable damage and that they are in immediate danger of failure and therefore eligible. So that's the approach, but that has not been completed yet. So you don't see that reflected in the reports that you have.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Any more comments from the table? Administration? Machines are open?
Do we have an audience? Because it's such a big vote, I want
Yeah,
to make
well, I thought I did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Comments from the audience. I did. So, come on, Mr. Brock. So we can get your pump updated.
I make this very short. The pumps.
That would be new.
The pumps are outdated and they're obsolete. They need to be replaced.
Okay.
And whatever money we get from FEMA, from Ida, and from the parish, we need them pumps replaced. Because I asked the question: if the water come across the levee We got the four gates or floodgates closed. We repairing the holes in the levees, and the water getting here. How we gonna get the water out? They say you're gonna pump them out with obsolete pumps. That ain't gonna happen.
We're getting ready to take care of that now, Mr. Brown. Machines are open. And the measure passes,
It was a, yeah, it was.
It's a yes.
yes, verbal yes, 9-0.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Would you,
so we didn't have to hear from the bond commission. I mean, the bond council, okay, good. All right,
are we moving forward with 9E, which is also a bond one, or do you wanna? It's being deferred? Okay, okay.
yeah.
So do you? Are we going back to the agenda now?
Yes, ma'am.
8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
The following introductions are for Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution declaring June 19th, Juneteenth in the parish of Plaquemines, and further declaring Juneteenth an observed reoccurring annual holiday for Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, repairs Diamond Park project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution appointing the elected official members of the Plaquemines Parish Community Action Advisory Board and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The following two are for Councilmember Konovich. An ordinance to provide for the sale of adjudicated properties and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution urging the Plaquemines Parish Hospital Board to provide better public access to budgets and meeting materials and to provide quarterly updates to the Plaquemines Parish Council and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. This one's for Councilmember Newsom, sorry. Getting tongue-tied. An ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund operating expenditure budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember McCarty, an ordinance rescinding a 10-foot alleyway servitude for public use created by recorded surveys of Square N of the Hodge Hunt Hero subdivision, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The following two are for Councilmember Schultz. An ordinance to amend the 2023 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend Chapter 19 of the Parish Code of Ordinances by enacting Article 7 titled Public Right-of-Ways and Public Land Excavation Permit, establishing the rules, regulations, fees, and penalties regarding the permitting of excavation activities on public right-of-ways and public lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the final one is for Councilmember Edwards, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan, roof repair, Percy Griffin Community Center project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
9, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 9A, ordinances and public hearings pursuant to Article 6, Section 601E of the Plaquemines Parish Charter.
Item 1, 2, and 3 deferred.
Councilmember LaFrance, those three are falling off. Would you like them to be reintroduced?
What we gonna do with Galliano?
No.
We'll just let them go.
4, an ordinance to amend and as amended enact and reenact provisions of Section 228, Section 2222, and Section 2223 of the Parish Code of Ordinances establishing new water and sewage usage charges and a new refuse fee. Establish an annual consumer price index adjustment to commence on January 2025 water bills for water and sewage usages, charges, and refuse fees, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Schultz.
Offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Schultz, Seconded by Mr. Newsom. Mr. Schultz.
So this is to increase the water and sewage rate usage charges and refuge rates commencing on July 2023 water bill invoice period and establish an annual consumer price index adjustment therefore. Overall, this is for operations and supplies of the water department. For the past couple of years, just for operations, we have been losing money, 1.8 million in 2021 and 1.1 million in 2022. So, and every year, in order for that department to break even, we have to do a general fund transfer. So what we're trying to do is control the increase as low as we can, but to where the water department can break even, basically.
Could you tell them the amount of the increase?
The amount, well, it depends on usage, but
Average?
the average increase for the average customer, residential customer, they will see about an $8.58 increase on their water bill. Now, the more water you use, obviously, the more it goes up. So, but the average, pulling all the data of usage and everything throughout the parish, the average residential customer will see $8.58 increase. And also, another thing to add, we are still below neighboring parishes for water, sewer, and trash pickup. And we have trash pickup twice a week, too. So we're still trying to maintain low water rates and everything, but we have to do something to stabilize the water department.
Any comments from the audience?
Oh, Chris, I know, hey, I'm just gonna say it. I can't go. I disagree with this one. Man, we got inflation to deal with. We got all kind of problems coming, man, and everything is getting higher and higher. Some people in Belshade may be able to afford it, but some people in the rest of the parish, man, we can't afford this.
I understand.
Man, this is super high for everybody.
Part of the reason is since 2019, expenses for supplies and chemicals have gone up 25%, and that's what we have to pay. And the problem is we can't make improvements or anything throughout the parish on other things because we're basically supplementing the water department.
Well, why can't we do a more gradual approach, you know?
In all honesty, back in 2017 was supposed to be the third water rate increase, and this is still lower than what that water rate increase was supposed to be. Correct? Yeah. So this is actually less than what was forecasted back in 2017. We worked on it very hard to keep it as low as possible.
What we're gonna do about the other problem with the enterprise fund that we have? The boat harbors. We're gonna do about them.
I will let council members down the road answer that question.
We have to stay on this item.
What's the deal for the people, man? You know what I'm saying? I just disagree with the water rate increase. You know, it should be a little bit gradual approach.
Correct. And I want to be clear, the commercial increase, they will increase at a different rate. Like they already pay more, but they will increase more than that. So we are trying to keep it off the residents as much as possible, but we have to do something. I mean, because the thing is, right now, our general fund balance is $47,000.
I understand that.
And the only other place we have money to pull from for a transfer at the end of the year is emergencies. And we talked about emergencies with EMS and everything like that. So we're trying to stay away from that fund and use that for true emergencies, and we just can't transfer anything from the general fund anymore. We don't have any money. So we're trying to keep it low, I understand, but that's where we stand.
Just people are hurting, man. People are hurting, man.
Thank you, Mr. Henry, for those comments. Mr. Konovich?
Yeah, I don't agree with it neither, but the last administration went to Severn Trent and made them buy the chemicals, so we had to pay their 10% markup. They got them electric meters, was supposed to save money. the company that got to installed them wrong. So Vern Trent had to go behind them and reinstall them. Infomart, and then fix people's houses that, I know some that they pushed rocks through the lines into their houses and had to fix washing machines and toilets and everything else. And, like I said, Infomark's buying chemicals when they're not supposed to. That's why we above our $1 million every year. Instead of going back to that company that installed the meters wrong, making them pay Infomark or redoing the meters, we paid it. That's why we have to come out of our own pocket.
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, and so again, that's why I'm going to be voting no on this. I think that the administration caused the problem. We had to find a way to correct it. But I could tell you, and then my biggest concern with that, we did this without having any public hearing for the citizen whatsoever. We just saying this was going to happen to you, citizen, without explaining to them why we charging them this. So I'm definitely voting no for this straight up because I know, especially East Bank, you know, my community is hurting, and so I cannot, with good conscience, vote for this.
Well, Reverend, you don't want to pay more money for some brown water? Ms. McCarty?
The council members and the parish administration have the heart of the people. But we need to start running the parish more like a business. And when A costs X amount, then we have to find a way to pay for that X amount. Otherwise, let's put it this way. Somebody cornered me in Sam's the other day, and he was talking about the ferry price increasing. You know, it's very difficult. Everybody's suffering. Everybody's suffering. Everybody's experiencing an increase in the cost of goods, not just in Plaquemines Parish. And it's a trickle-down thing. When the price of gas goes up, the price of bread goes up. I asked that person, I said, imagine the parish as yourself, and you have children. And now you get sick. You are the parish, and you get sick. You can no longer take care of your children. What's going to happen to your children? If the government collapses because we cannot afford to take care of the services, because we mismanage the government, then we're not going to help anybody, the people who have money or the people who don't have money. These are very difficult decisions, but we have to start balancing the budgets and let the different departments pay for the costs that they receive or incur. It's a very hard decision, but we have to make healthy decisions for the future of the parish.
Mr. Schultz?
So I want to respond to some of the comments. First one on the past, I can't control that. I understand your frustration with that, but these numbers are not including the problems with the water meter installation. So that is not here. Also, on the not letting the public know, we have to want to say our second meeting on this council, we were introduced with $1 million transfer to the water department that we were going to have to do not one way or another, but if this doesn't pass, and that's when I've been working with finance, and I've been communicating with everybody as on this council back and forth. Here's the spreadsheet, everything. So I've had a public town hall to let my residents know. I've had another meeting earlier this week for a civic association to let my residents know. And I put it out on Facebook. I've been trying to let as many people know about this, that it's coming, to keep people informed, where we're not just passing things and then telling them after. So I just want to respond to that I've been trying to keep everybody ahead of it to let them know that this is a possibility. I yield.
Mr. Champagne?
Yeah, we were elected by the people to to utilize our funds in a responsible manner, to make responsible choices. And this is one. It is a hard choice, as other council members have stated. But at the end of the day, we must pay the cost to produce potable water. There is a cost. There's nothing more than paying our bills. We have to pay for the chemicals, we have to pay for the services. The $1 million that we had to authorize to subsidize the water could have been used for matching funds for a grant, could have been used for other things that we have a responsibility to maintain. You know, we talk about, in the past, everyone's talked about buying grass cutting equipment. Well, $1 million could buy a couple of components. I just use that as an example. When you go to the store, you can't negotiate the cost of an item. If a gallon of milk is $3, you have to pay $3. You can't go pay $2.75 because you're not going to get the product. And that's where we are. I don't enjoy raising this cost. But as Mr. Schultz said, we have the lowest water rates in the region. We have the highest quality water. Louisiana put out the quality analysis on all the water. We're producing some of the highest quality water in the state for the lowest price. We got, like Mr. Schultz said, our trash pickups twice a week. City of New Orleans is lucky if it gets picked up once a week. Again, I don't take this decision lightly, but you chose us to make the right choices. You voted for us to do that, and I think that's where we are. I yield.
Mr. Jurtich?
Yes, I've been around my district, and apparently my district does cover a lot of area. And it's very difficult because I got constituents that agree with it, I got constituents that don't agree with it. And it makes it a very hard decision on my part because I'm here for the constituents. But with the constituents that don't agree, is just as Mr. Champagne said, we got to use up $1 million to cover the cost out of other funds. We have a lot of other things we could possibly do with that $1 million or more. So I am, you know, it's a hard decision to make. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do because, you know, no matter what we do on this, there's going to be some upset people. If it passes, there's going to be upset people. I do have, you know, a place in Ascension Parish, and I can tell you I pay 3 times more in Ascension Parish for all my stuff, at least. You know, privatized garbage. They don't have public garbage. We're very, very blessed to have, you know, the parish garbage trucks pick up our garbage, our trash, and everything else. You know, so it's tough because I know people are going through hard times, and believe me, I agree with y'all. But if you move out of here, if we're forced to move out of here because we can't rebuild, the next place you go, you're gonna look at that water bill and say, we had it made. So please, I hope y'all can understand the reason we're having to make this decision. And as I said, it's a very tough one for me because I got a split community on this. And I know whichever way I go, I'm gonna make someone angry, but I got big shoulders and I can handle it. But it's a very subtle increase. Believe me, I compare it to, well, I guess I got to give up a 6-pack of beer this month, you know, smoke less cigarettes, which I don't smoke. But, you know, I mean, you got to look at the cost of some of these luxuries that we do too, you know, that you don't realize just cutting back on certain thing. And I don't think you'll realize, I don't think after the initial impact, I think you'll just see it flow, you know, just be a normal day again. And look, believe me, this is a very low increase across the board. So I hope whatever happens that y'all understand. I yield.
Mr. Newsom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, it came to light when Ms. Infomark, their contract, how long, when's it up? Do you guys know that or offhand? And if not, that's fine, you can get back with us. Just if we knew when that contract was, what that thing was. Just, and you can get back with me later if you don't know it, Jeff, offhand. Thank you.
No, there was a, I guess, for lack of a better term, a clause, an extra 5-year clause, and that just started, I think, this month. So they have an extra 5 years on their contract.
Thank you.
Any more comments from the table? Administration? Machines are open. Oh, I would like to do a verbal no, I'm sorry. No, I think a verbal no is good. Yes. You got it.
5, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Lot 6, Upper Star Plantation, Section 19, T15S24E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 6A and 6B, Upper Star Plantation, Section 19, T15S R24E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plan and plat of survey by Dufran Surveying and Engineering Incorporated, dated August 12, 2022, the owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Jurisic.
I offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurich, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Mr. Jurich?
Yes, this is where the two owners share one property. They now wish to divide the property so they can have their own individual lot. Very simple.
Any comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of 2 undesignated lots and part of Lot V, Alex Palace Division, Section 40T19S R28E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots V1 and V2, Alex Palace Division, Section 40T19S R28E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plan and plat of survey by Dufran Surveying and Engineering Incorporated, dated November 29, 2022, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Jurisic.
I so offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurich, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Machine open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0. Next item, please.
B, an ordinance to amend the 2023 manpower structure and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
We have changes for this. It's the same ones that were deferred several times, but I'll read them again.
Okay. Could you read it with the changes so I can offer with the changes?
Sure. The changes are changing the manager to a director. No? Okay, that's what I have on the last changes. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
So,
we good with it. I so offered,
Second.
and I had a second with Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Dr. Gouy?
Run this back again. We're taking the salary out and benefits.
We're moving it, we're moving it from the PIO, which was a classified position, and moving it into this position, which is an unclassified position.
Right. And we had a salary before.
This is 65. Yeah.
Scratched out.
It's taken out on the copy we got. That's all. I got it.
Any more comments from the table? Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, I'm gonna be voting again, just no, because we are really hurting Fleet Central employees, the people who cut our grass, the maintenance staff, and yet we steady giving people 65,000, 75,000, 80,000, and the most essential employees we need, we lose them to Venture Global. After a while, we don't have nobody cutting grass. After a while, we don't have nobody for heavy equipment. People working at community center, been working parish for 20 years, still making $12 an hour. So I put in my mindset, and probably from this point on, going to be voting no for all these positions because we're not doing anything to help the people who've been here 30, 40 years. We're losing them, but yet and still we can find a way to be paying $65,000, $85,000, and then people still been this parish 20 years, still making $12. So I can't continue to vote for these $65,000 position because we're losing too many people, and they're depressed every time they see this. They're saying, and I'm still at $12, and I've been with this parish 20 years. So I'm definitely voting no, just on those basis, on that basis.
Ms. McCarty?
Mr. Edwards, I hear your concern, and I hear the pain of the people as well. One of the reasons that we need a person as a public information officer, or we're going to change the name of that position to something else, is so that we can speak as a unified voice to the people. The people in District 5 in Fort St. Leon, for instance, we need a better way to communicate with people. And that's a small example, but we need a unified voice and a better way to communicate and get information out to the people. And this person, I'll back up. I'll say in, what is it? Is it St. Tammany Parish? There's another parish that has 5 people that handle this position. So we're hiring somebody who's going to have a lot of qualifications, a lot of education to do the job that another parish has 5 people to do. So when we have an emergency, this person's going to be responsible for sending out all communications to all media, all internal communications to us, and then to the people in our parish. It's a big job that's hard to describe. So imagine one person doing the job of 5 other people. This is an important position. So I understand what you're saying, but I also see the need. So I just wanted to offer that.
Mr. Jurgich?
Yes, I'd like to ask the administration, the $65,000, I thought that we had talked that wasn't set in stone. It was going to be lower than that possibly. I wanted to start looking.
Look, I was trying to leave it blank because I don't want to give the form away.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
It was as much as 75,000.
I thought at the last when we talked about it, we talked about not just leaving it blank and seeing what we can do.
There needed to be a number in there. We started looking around and what like the lower type incomes are. So hopefully I can get a person in that position for less.
Right, okay.
That's the goal.
I thought that's,
Right.
But a qualified
But my
person.
fear is that
Patty,
when they see this, now they're gonna know, hey, I know there's 65 right there.
Right, I know, that's why I was.
But it gives, if I get them lower, it gives room for growth. And
It's hard to get somebody lower though when they got a number in there, you know. That- All right. Would y'all be willing to change it to 45?
No.
All right, I yield.
Mr. Schultz?
So, normally, Ms. Edwards, I do agree with you that we got to quit, watch who we add. However, I want to make clear that this position was already in our budget. It's just, now it's not a classified position, it's just moving them to unclassified. So that's already accounted for in our budget. We just haven't, in the past administration didn't fill it, and then Mr. Hinckley has been working on it since he took office. So it is already in our budget. We're just changing the title. And class. Oh no, we're keeping the title of manager, but changing it to unclassified. So that's all I want to add. But like I said, normally I do agree with you. We got to watch who we add and everything like that.
Dr. Gui?
There was talk of contract on this that was decided against after you looked at it.
We're looking at multiple.
Okay.
We're still in the process. We've got some more interviews. We've done a couple of interviews. We've got a couple of more interviews to do. And there's also opportunities if I don't get to a point where I'm comfortable with anyone, there's other ways too with firms that will come in. So like I said, if God forbid, a storm comes, we get a firm to come in here, and at that time, that becomes FEMA reimbursable at that time there too. So, I mean, there's ways of working this in.
And the thought process of hiring someone through a CEA, we could operate them through the port and the administration, that didn't pan out?
That was going to be a tough
Okay.
decision
I'm
right
just
there.
asking.
Charles and I, we talked about
Okay,
it.
good.
And we each wanted 70% of the time, so it's fine.
And I think the last person we had in this position was Ms. Jade DePlessis, right?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, if we could have Miss Jade DePlessis back,
We
we'll
had,
never get that.
Huh?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
Strickland. Ms. Strickland was
Yeah, we-
after Jade.
And we haven't filled that position in over a year?
Probably so, yeah.
Any more comments from the table? Administration? Cheese is open. And the measure passes 8-4, 1 against.
Item 9C and 9D are withdrawn. Item 9E and 9F are deferred. 9G, an ordinance to amend the 2023 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget Recreation Davent Summer Recreation Program Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Edwards.
Offer it.
We have a motion by Reverend Edwards,
Second.
seconded by
Where are we?
Mr. Konovich.
G.
happened to C and
9G.
They
And we-
refer.
And we have changes also.
Okay, wait, can we verify something? So C through F has been deferred?
9C and 9D are withdrawn. 9E and 9F are deferred.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was confused about. Thank you.
What's up, Chris?
Come sit down here with us.
I had somebody talking.
We have changes for 9G. I'll read them.
Yes, please.
In the preamble on line 1, they're adding revenue and expenditure budgets with an S. Line 5, at the end of the sentence, program department, they're adding the verbiage and the revenue budget reimbursements general. Line 6, they're removing the word funding from the sentence and then including reimbursements from Point-a-la-Hash Volunteer Fire Department have been added. Line 9, revenue and has been added after the word operating, and it's expenditure budgets with an S now. Then they're added in section 2, another chart that reads as follows. The 2023 revenue budget is amended as follows. General fund revenue budget reimbursements general has been increased to $22,938, and the original section 2 has become section 3.
You offer with changes, Reverend Edwards?
Yes.
We have a motion by Reverend Edwards to add the changes. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Mr. Schultz?
All right, Mr. Edwards, I know we talked about this yesterday, but what exactly are we planning on spending this money on? I know we already have in the budget $25,000 to the summer recreation program, and this was reimbursed back in January to the parish. So we're adding additional $22,938 to that program. So I just wanted to start off with what exactly are we spending this money on?
Again, we had a very long conversation on this on yesterday. And some part of it was very disturbing to me because I made it very clear that we wasn't using this for chemical. We're going to be using part of our total East Bank Recreation Program. We're going from Brickway to Bohemia. Part of it's going to be using for supplies, might use it part of staff. We're trying to get the budget together, and I really thought, it was my understanding that Mr. Bartholomew got $50,000 every year for the summer recreation. So when Mr. Brock presented this $22,000 check to us was left over, we were saying that, okay, well, we starting off with $72,000, and then we can look at other companies coming in and help us put this program together. So this would be a part of, tied into overall our summer camp program. But it's not for chemical. It is not for chemical. And I thought that I made that very clear to you yesterday, that we will be using this part of staffing, we'll be using part of supply. We're trying to get a total budget for it. And so that's why we left it for recreation. We have a nonprofit organization. We're not using the fire department, either, because we know that caused a lot of problems the last time there was audit, and we talked about that yesterday at Lane 2. We have the same nonprofit organization that sponsored the Donna Rose Festival that put on the Christmas light every year, and we're going to use them, and we will report every line item. We wanted this money to stay into the parish recreation so we could request it as needed, and we will justify every request that we're making, showing it what it's for. So that's where we're at. And I want to say that yesterday we had a conversation. You mentioned that we don't want to get into hardering funds. This is not about us hardering funds at all. We don't know what happened, why the money wasn't used. Mr. Brock came to us and said, I got this check. He came here, sat around, everybody said what to do. I met with finance about what's the best way we can put this in for our recreation fund. And so this is the process that they say we need to do in order to get it in.
Correct. And to clarify, this money I never questioned about the chemicals because we were talking about the swimming pool as well, which, again, that is appropriate, and that's not this money. So yeah, I agree. This is not to be used for chemicals. My concern again is the nonprofit. Have we entered into CEAs with, or have we?
We're in the process of doing that right now.
Okay, and then you're telling me that all the money will, not all the money, all the expenditures will come to the parish, and the parish will be cutting the checks for expenditures? Is that?
Exactly.
Is that y'all's understanding?
Exactly. That's exactly what I told you on yesterday, and it hasn't changed since yesterday.
Okay. Well, I'm just making sure because I had a conversation.
To you that what I told you yesterday haven't changed from yesterday.
Yeah, but I'm just verifying with the administration because I talked to them before I talked to you yesterday. That's their understanding as well.
Yeah, I haven't had a proposed CEA in front of me yet, but I'm sure we'll not negotiate one. We'll have one like we do with everyone. It would be my recommendation, however, that because of the difficulties we've had in the past with this arrangement, that we do similar to what the state does with us on some things. It's called basically a direct disbursement. So you would submit your invoices to the parish, and the parish would pay them as they're submitted and as it's verified that it's done, as opposed to cutting a lump sum check to a third party, and then we get into issues of auditing and what's the money used for, and then we get a random check, 2 months into the next fiscal year, and it's just a nightmare. So I really am thankful that Reverend Edwards is agreeing to go ahead and have these submitted to the parish, and as long as they're for the purposes of submitting, providing, these supplies and this programming, there should be no reason why those invoices wouldn't be paid upon submittal. So we'll enter into a CEA, and I hope that's what the president and the council will agree to in terms of how this transaction will work.
And again, after I got on the phone with Chris and he told me I'd been talking to the parish president, that's the very next call I made to, and the parish president basically said what you saying is that he wanted to make sure that we could account for every dollar, and I assured him that we would do whatever he deemed necessary in terms of meeting with you to make it happen. We just want to because we know the drama that went through with the volunteer fire department. I knew that, and I didn't want us to go through that same thing. So whatever process that the parish deeming necessary, whatever process finance say we do, we want to do that, whatever it is. we want to follow whatever rules and regulation that you say for us doing it. We're open to doing that.
You yield?
A year.
Mr. Newsom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, if I understand this correctly, which I'm gonna ask some questions that might be already answered. So this 22,938, that was the check that Mr. Brock presented to the government, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And did it go into the general fund? Or recreation fund, or where, do you know
No,
where
I
it
think
went?
this is no, they just received a check as revenues.
Uh-huh.
We have to have an ordinance to actually designate it. So we just took the check into our accounts. This is the actual ordinance to now have it designated as to where it's gone. And so it's being designated to, it's a general fund dollars to the recreational day van summer recreational program.
Well, I'm,
Was it a check from Stothaven?
no, it was a check from,
No, my understanding.
So-
and
so,
Is this not the,
This
not
is
the-
left over from 2019, correct, Mr. Brock? That was the check that was left over from 2019 that was
2019.
given, and they have not had the program the last 3 years, correct? So, 2021 and 22. So this is what was left over, and it's going to general fund, and Mr. Edwards is appropriating it to.
it's
summer-
general fund dollars, but when we got the check, it didn't go into the fund. The council has to create a revenue to receive it, and that's what it's doing. So it's receiving the funds now and formally putting it into the Recreation Day Van Summer Rec Program.
Thank you.
okay, well, I would like to see it put into the recreation program and put it into the parish recreation program and let the whole recreation program, because looks like to me, the summer recreation program in Dayvan already has $25,000 budgeted for that, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so now we're gonna add another, I'm gonna use round number, almost $23,000 to that program. So the program's gonna be only to have in their hands, might be to have in their disposal is almost $50,000. And I know that's right, 48.
Councilman Newsom, this 22,938 is leftover money that was marked for the Day Van Recreation Summer Program. So this already was marked for them. They brought it back to us, so all we're doing is creating a fund.
I disagree with you.
Accounting wise, that's not how.
That's not how it works in accounting, so I don't know.
But
That's
I
not
don't
how.
know if you verify with, but that exactly was it. That money was given to the East Bank River. That's the only way Mr. Brock could give it to you. If it wasn't
gave
given
it to
to him,
Who
how
gave
you
it
gonna
to
give it to
the
you?
parish government.
The parish
Parish
government did.
government, so when it was returned, it should have been returned back to the parish government.
Hold it.
I'm saying,
25,000.
I
Mr.
just
Newsom,
can't,
Mr. Newsom have the floor.
yeah, you know, that's almost, I'm sorry, Ms. McCurdy had it up, $48,000, almost $49,000. What other summer program throughout Plaquemines Parish has $48,000 in their budget just for their summer program? Nobody has that. I'll answer my own question. With that, I yield.
Mr. Konovich?
I'm not 100% sure. I want to say we gave them 25,000 each year. But
No, it was 50,000.
Well, I can clarify that. It was 50,000 every year, like Ms. Edwards said, and then in 2019, the internal auditor did an audit. And at that time, he ran the 3 years, and the normal expenditures averaged 22 to 23,000. So he made the recommendation to lower it from 50,000 down to 25,000. And that's what it has been since 2019. However, in 2020, we had COVID. 2021, I think we're still under COVID. Thus, it was budgeted, but it was never spent. So it was 50,000 at one time, but then after the internal audit, it came down to 25,000.
that's good with me, but you want to defer it till you get the CEA signed, and then we could give it to the group with the CEA?
Let me just say this. The reason why Mr. Newsom, because these other programs had YMCA camp. the East Bank do not have a YMCA camp. So if you want to ask why this is here, because YMCA left the East Bank, and because we didn't have a YMCA camp like other parts of the parish, this is the way we was having recreation for the whole East Bank of the river through this mechanism of this $50,000 with the fundness, and because we didn't have a YMCA as a place for our children to come at. And so again, I'm trying to understand is the East Bank shouldn't have it, there's too much to give the East Bank. And if you look at the East Bank of the river, we have the largest district out of all the districts geographically. We cover more space than every district in Plaquemine Parish. Could we go, yes, geographically we do. Could we go?
I don't debate that.
Yeah.
But I got the floor.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Konovich?
You all right, the East Bank has no YMCA, and the West Bank does. The reason the YMCA left the East Bank was they charged the kids so much money to get in. And they used to have what program was that? Where Chevron and them donated money, and it should have paid for the kids to come to Y, but it didn't happen. Then when they moved out of the East Bank, they took all the weight equipment too, which that program paid to buy the weight equipment. So he is right. We got the 200,000 for the Ys on the West Bank.
Ms. McCarty?
Mr. Edwards, this is opening up a can of worms a little bit. I wonder if we should get the CEA signed, but I have a question. I'm wondering, are there any other funds that are going to Davant from any other source besides this? For anything?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of money going into, we went to Venture Global to get money to repair the Davant swimming pool, the Davant locker room, to put a new diving board in the prayer. We also requested to repair the Reverend Percy Griffin Community Center because water is coming down and we have to use plastic bucket to cover it. We have a brown ceiling tile, so we went at a lot of people to get money in there. But that other money don't have anything we don't have no other money allocated for the summer recreation program. But yeah, we have requested money for other people to repair the Reverend Griffin Center, to repair the swimming pool. That's why I was thinking the parish administration, because they're out there, they already replaced the fencing around the pool. They're out there putting the baseball field together. So they've been doing a lot of work because there's been a lot of neglect because we don't have a YMCA. So as Mr. Kovic was saying, I was the manager for the YMCA when they opened that building. I managed that. And the only way that we was able to have fun, every company was over there was funding our summer camp program. That's how we ran the program. The people who built the Post Alpha Hospital, they were the people that built the prison, they funded. So in order for us to have a program across the river every year, we had to go to companies in that area to do it. And that's the same thing we had to do in order to get the swimming pool up and running, because other way the parish didn't have the money to do it.
So the money that you received from Venture Global, is that going to make your building whole? And just out of curiosity, how much did they give?
If the money from Venture Global going to do what?
Is going to repair all the needs that you have and
we're hoping it will do.
And how much did they put forth to Davant?
I don't know the total amount. How much money Venture Global is putting forward to the repair of the Reverend Percy Griffin Community Center?
It's 300 and something down. 300 and something. It's north of 300,000.
And we needed a total of $525,000 to repair the Reverend Griffin Center and the pool, and all. We needed $525,000.
On one hand, I'm glad that you're getting the Davant Center repaired for the people, but I look at the parish as a whole, and I see needs all over the place, including, like a fire station I have that the ceiling's coming apart and the people can't live in it, so that we don't have insurance in that area. People can't get a discount on their insurance, so I yield right now.
Mr. Champagne.
Yeah, we spoke about spending other people's money responsibly, and I'm all about supporting kids. How many kids are we talking about going to this program, Reverend?
It could be almost 90 kids or 80 kids that we do.
And we all know the kids are our future, and I'm all about doing the right thing. But my colleagues brought up some interesting points. I know that in Burris, your YMCA is falling apart. I don't think your pool even works. Is your summer camp subsidized? I don't know. Your kids have to pay to go. So those are some considerations we have. Now, I think I'm all about fair and equitable government. And I look at this amount of money, and I think without a CEA, it's difficult for me to move forward because we have to be responsible. I think we have to account for how the money is spent and who's utilizing it. I just need to see a plan. I mean, saying we're going to have a summer camp and some kids are coming and we're going to throw $25,000 that way and we're going to do some stuff. We're shooting from the hip. We're trying to get away from that, y'all. We're trying to be responsible. I want you to have this program. My God, let's put a plan on paper and justify every dollar we spend. We're complaining about spending an extra $8 a piece on our water bill, but we just want to have no plan and do this. I want your program to succeed, but let's put together a plan. I would recommend that we slow down a bit, put together a plan and justify it, and then we won't have to have these discussions from year to year. We can look at last year's plan and say, hey, is that enough money or do we need more? Is it working? What can we do better? But right now, we're winging it. And I don't think that's fair to you. I don't think it's fair to the entire parish. We all have needs. And we're all about recreation's important. I'll tell you, the recreation on the West Bank, it's in shambles. Not a complaint, it's an observation. We're going to make it better. So, Reverend Law, I'm committed to making this work. I just want to see a plan. I want to see a cooperative agreement with whoever the nonprofit is. And who is it, if I might ask?
What's the name of the organization?
Prominent Youth Foundation.
Good. If we could put together some type of plan and justify, because we do owe that to our constituency, because we are spending their money. And with that, I yield.
Rev, you would like to defer it? You'd like to defer it? And we'll come back to it, the next council meeting, and you can have that
I don't mind
CEA.
deferring it, and then we can enter into agreement, with it. But I just want to say this, in terms of throwing money, I understand how the history of the YMCA came into Plaquemine Parish and other programs. These buildings that we had, the Legacy Fund came in and donated a lot of the money for all those things that happened. So I'll defer it, and hopefully by the time we're at the meeting, we'd have a memorandum agreement to show people, where this money is going. But again, I want to say other parts of the parish have YMCA program. We do not have YMCA program. And again, I do not want us to deal with the money for the repairing of the building to be parallel to this money. To me, the apples and oranges. It shouldn't be comparing the money for the repair that we're doing. If other council members did not go to Global Ventures to do what they needed to do, don't put that on me. I went out because I saw the need for my district because there was no money in the parish budget to do it, and I went at it. And not prevent any other council member for doing that, but to compare the money for the repair of the swimming pool to this recreation money, to me, that's a disservice because they're two different things altogether. So I'll refer it until the next meeting.
I wanted to say something really quick. I'm not even, the $25,000 that's budgeted, and I think this is the main concern, is there's no CEA, so we don't know where the money's going. And looking at the past 3 years when the Point LaHash Volunteer Fire Department had it, the average expenditures was $23,000. So you have I think the main concern is not that we're trying to get rid of the program or take that money away. It's where's the money? What is the money going to be used for? Because this is now 47,000, yet the 48,000, yet the previous 3 years that the Point LaHash Volunteer Fire Department did was 23,000. I understand about the YMCA, but at the same time, we have to pay for the summer camps and stuff. So that I'm not opposed. Like I said to you yesterday, I'm not even opposed to it. I just want to know where the money's going, and a CEA in place will help solve that problem. Okay, and that's why I want to be clear that I'm all for the kids and recreation. I just want to know where the money's going. I'll move on.
I'm hoping the vote will reflect that people are serious.
Okay.
You will get that, and we'll see where the vote goes.
All right, thank you, Reverend Evans. That item will be deferred. And we'll move to the next item, please.
H, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan repairs Point LaHash Telecom Tower project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Edwards.
Reverend Evans.
I'm sorry.
Item H.
Yeah, this one here, I still don't know what that is. Nobody ever told me what that is about to this very day.
Okay.
So I'm going to defer that.
Just
because I don't
defer
know
it?
nothing about that one.
I, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan repairs Woodlawn Brathwaite Fire Stations project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Edwards.
Reverend Evans.
So move.
We have a motion by Reverend Edwards. Seconded by Mr. Conovich. Any comments from the audience? From the table?
Yes.
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, one of the things we want to do with this is having Mr. DeMarco is to get together with the fire department to develop a plan for this, because there's been some question about repairing the Woodlawn Fire Department. And at one point, Jonathan said he had people ready to go and volunteer. The president and I went and looked at it. They gutted out all the building at the top and was gonna move that for housing for the volunteer fire department. But then something happened. Jonathan said, no, we can't do it. And so my position is, we're not saying that we have to use all $2 million of these dollars. Let me make that clear. But we want to make sure that we find out how much it costs to do that, because it's under building. Because we're supposed to have another building at the Brickway Park firehouse there. We already building, it's a portable building that said was there that needed to be rebuilt. I can never get Irvin and Jonathan together with it. This is a building issue, so I'm suggesting that you over building go look at this to see how much it costs to do what we need to do, because I think I talked to Patty and other people about how they have a need to do stuff. The only thing I want to make sure of is that in the past we had a meeting with the president and Jonathan and Irvin, because Irvin was saying there was some money that Ben was supposed to repair these buildings, but some kind of way something happened, we lost the money. So I wanted to make sure on this my administration that I would make sure that we had some money to do it, and whatever left it could be done, because I didn't want the money just to disappear. And so, but we need you to actually oversee what it will cost. And it might not cost $1 million. I don't know.
Thank you, Reverend. The portable building in Braithwaite is there. It's there and put up, and we're waiting on electricity to be run to the building. So that one's just about completed for the substation in Braithwaite. It is my understanding that Jonathan has spoke with engineering, and some plans are in place. They are engineering the remodel of Woodlawn and the Belchase on Engineers Road, Belchase Fire Department building on Engineers Road. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Schultz.
No, I talked to Mr. Butcher when I was on my way here that the architect was at Station 5 in Belchase today, or this morning, and Woodland this morning. So he said that they're trying to get plans in place to get an exact dollar amount in place where they know how much Woodland, and Woodland is priority number 1, and then Belchase Station 5 is number 2. So they're supposed to be coming back out and getting them the estimates, but they were on site this morning.
I'll respectfully request that we defer this until we get some final numbers.
I'll defer it.
Thank you.
J, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, repairs Point LaHash Pump Station project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Edwards.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to hear.
Item J,
Item J.
caught that. We caught that on, Rev.
More 12 million.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go with this because it's a pumping station. So often.
We have a motion by Reverend Edwards. Do we have a second?
I'm confused what we're doing, what this is.
I second. I'm going to second. I'm going to explain why. I second.
Second for discussion.
Okay, second for discussion.
Well, okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second by Mr. Schultz for discussion.
Can I take it, Mr. Edwards? You can.
No, go.
So, from my understanding, talking to Ms. Morrell, this is leftover money from the bond fund, and we're running out of time to use that money. I understand we just did the DNR $12 million. However, the engineer did mention that the Point LaHash pumping station, the chain drives, might not be covered. So if we put this money in there, it might help upgrade those chain drives that he was talking about if it's not covered by FEMA. But if we don't spend that money, or if we don't designate the money, we could run into losing the money from the bond. We're running out of basic time, and this, my understanding is there's only a limited amount of things, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, the courthouse bond can only be used for certain things, or within a certain radius, serving the courthouse. So that's
Where that money's coming from, the courthouse fund?
yes, this is coming from the courthouse fund.
We was using that money for the ferry ramp being Point LaHash.
That's already designated as well. Ms. Morrell, that's already, my understanding, that's a separate project that's already been budgeted. So this is what's left after that, is my understanding from Ms. Morrell. Again, this is for discussion only, but that's my understanding. We might, Mr. Edwards, you might want to verify with Ms. Morrell, but that money's already budgeted. The previous one, or the H was the telecom tower. Again, it's the courthouse fund within the certain radius, and that we're trying to
It's
basically.
not a certain radius, it has to
Certain radius serving the courthouse.
serve the courthouse.
And those two things serve the courthouse, is my understanding. Ms. Taylor, maybe you can expand a little bit more?
That's correct. It met the qualifications to fall under that.
So the only reason why I think it might be prudent, maybe not today, but prudent to do this appropriation in case if the chain drives aren't eligible for FEMA with that $12 million, well, now we have 1.8 that we can maybe upgrade. Just a thought.
It's up to him if he wants to. It's up to you. Another second.
No,
No, move forward.
move forward. I want to move forward.
Gotta get a new second.
Well, we need a second.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Schultz. Any comment from the audience? Mr. Konovich?
I'm good.
Dr. Gouy?
So we do know that the money for the ferries has been moved and is sitting in the box and can't come out of that ferry because we're really counting on that for the ferry.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, if you notice, this is coming out of the fund unreserved, undesignated. So this is the pot of money that has not been dedicated anywhere. So if the council passed an ordinance, and I'm just off the top of my head, dedicating that money, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be an unreserved, undesignated. It would be in a project. It would actually be in the capital project.
But that's my question.
I
Did
don't
we
know if
do
we
that?
did it.
We talked about it. And I know Charles had that, when he was looking at that, he was counting on that to help with the relocation of the Point LaHash ferry landing. That's what we're counting on that.
This is from 2022. This isn't within the last few months. Now, this is all stuff that happened long ago.
We're going to confirm. Let's table the item. We're going to call Ms. Morrell just to reconfirm. But
Or would come back. Yeah.
yes, let's do that. Not defer it, just table it for.
Okay, we'll table that item.
Yes. Till we talk to Ms. Morrell.
Okay, we'll move to item K, please.
An ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund operating expenditure budget, buildings, PS, Freeport Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
We'll defer that item.
L, an ordinance to amend the 2023 manpower structure and revenue and operating expenditure budgets and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Mr. Newsom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is from an opioid settlement, and we're funding a drug court treatment director. Is this is creating also a new position, correct?
It's a position that was in place years ago, but because of cuts, budget cuts and all, Judge Connor, it's in his court.
Right.
So he gave up. We had a meeting with the sheriff, with Jerry and the district attorney, Charles, Judge Clement, and Judge Connor, and we all came to a consensus. It wouldn't have made sense to split that money up amongst all of the, because it had to go to the courts, to the DA's office, or to the sheriff's office. So they all agreed that the best way to utilize this monies is to get back to this, into the drug court here.
How much is the settlement? Do you know?
Oh, God. This is what we're going to get on an annual basis.
Oh, we're going to get this on an annual basis?
We're going to get this on an annual basis for about, I think, 10 years.
Oh, thank you. You answered my question.
Any more comments from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
Mr. Chairman, can we go back? I have to answer.
To item J? Can we go back to item J, please?
Sure. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan repairs Point LaHash Pump Station project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Edwards.
I need a motion.
It was already.
It was already offered.
Oh, yeah, because we had tabled it. Okay.
Okay, Ms. Morrell did confirm that the monies for the ferries is already designated. This is the leftover money.
Okay. Good.
So I offer it.
Okay. We already have a motion. We have a second. Any more comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
M, an ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund revenue and operating expenditure budgets and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Mr. Konovich.
What we doing with this money? Going to coastal restoration? Or?
No, this is the,
Is this not just recording the revenue?
this-
Yeah, it says levy and special.
And then, I think that's the fee.
Levy inspections.
The 875 is just creating a revenue budget because that's the excess funds that we received this year. We didn't budget that 875. So the first chart is increasing the revenue budget by 875 based on the additional monies we received. The expenditure budget is the 150, and that's for additional, that's for levy inspection services. So as you all know, we hired an employee to start that process this year. That employee is in the process of learning that system, learning how to do that properly. And so this is to fund a professional service agreement to get us through this year for the remaining part of the year to do the levy inspections.
We hiring a company to do them inspections? Or he's doing it?
Yeah, we have CES has in the past done it and will do it this year.
All right. Any more comments from the table? Mr. Newsom.
And I will say our levy inspection guy has basically been focused on making repairs. And so I don't know that there's been a ton of time for him to actually learn to date how to actually do the reports and all the inspection work that goes along. He's been focused on repairs. So the thinking is that as most of those repairs are now done, by next year, he will be in a position to do this work on behalf of the parish without us contracting this out.
But he is out there doing inspections while he's doing the work, and he did spend the 2 or 3 days with the Corps on this last, on that. On the annual inspection.
Yeah, it's just filling out that paperwork is a specialized thing you have to do, and that's what this is for.
Yes, just a quick question. This is a contract, with you said CES. How long is it for? Do you know?
Well, the budget appropriation, it'll be for the year.
From April to April, or from April to December?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that exact answer, because we could encumber the money for a whole calendar year. I can try to verify that for you if you'd like. I don't know if it's April to April or if it's through the fiscal year. I just don't know what their intentions are. I haven't talked to John about this.
Okay, thank you.
Any more comments from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
9N is deferred. 9P is deferred. 9Q, an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, by enacting Section 222 to be titled Procedures for the Appropriation of Funds from the Fund Balance Designated for Infrastructure, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Champagne.
I offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Champagne. Seconded by Mr. Schultz. Mr. Champagne.
All lot and subdivision fees, industrial fees, commonly referred to as impact fees, shall be designated for use on new infrastructure or to make major repairs on existing infrastructure that is vital for the health, safety, and welfare of citizens in Plaquemines Parish. These funds are not to be utilized to fund routine maintenance or daily operations or obligations of any department.
Is there any comments from the audience? From the table, Mr. Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Mr. Champagne, I commend you on this. I wasn't supposed to thank anybody, but I am. Mr. Champagne, for doing this. This is, probably most of this money, it would be in your district because of this new developments, and also by putting it in the parish, we can utilize it anywhere in the parish. So we want to thank you very much.
Kim. Q.
Oh, sorry.
Any more comments from the table, Mr. Champagne?
Yeah, to expand on that, Ronnie, thank you for that comment. You know, we're all part of systems, and although you say a lot of the revenue comes out of District 2, I don't have a pumping station in District 2. It's in District 5 that pumps District 2. The water plant's in District 4. So if you take all this money and keep it in one district, you do everyone else a disservice. We're part of systems, and this is intended to maintain the systems within this parish. And sometimes that need may be over here in District 1. By God, if we got a broken pump and need water, we need to fix it. Who cares where the money came from? This is what we've been talking about. We're one parish, we're one community. There's going to be a time where the revenue stream is now coming out of a different district, and I'll be looking for it. And I'm sure we'll get the same level of cooperation across the board. So that was the intent. So I would appreciate your support.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Champagne. Any more comments from the table? From the administration? Machines are open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0.
R, an ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund operating expenditure budget, register of voter department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Schultz. This has changes.
The changes are as follows. Under the language of Section 1 that reads, the 2023 general fund operating expenditure budget to register of voters department is hereby amended as follows. The language has been added as follows. The $7,113 is to be taken from the unreserved, undesignated general fund, And the other change is on line 27. The amount for the employee training is now $10,163.
Offer with changes.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schultz to offer this audience with changes, seconded by Mr. McCarty. Any comments from the audience? From the table, Mr. Schultz?
I think Ms. Rhodes has talked to everybody, or at least sent the packet to her. Her and her deputy registered voter person is trying to go to training to get up to speed for the, not required training, but standard training for registered voters office. And the change is when we create this, she's moving it from her capital outlay budget to her operating, but we forgot to add the additional 7,000. And like I said, the total course costs for the two of them, including travel and hotels and everything, is $10,163. And that's, like I said, I think Ms. Rose talked to everybody already.
Any comments from the table? Administration? Machine is open. And the measure passes unanimously, 9-0.
S, an ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund operating expenditure budget, buildings, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Schultz.
We have a motion by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Champagne. Mr. Schultz.
This is an ordinance to appropriate.
Q?
This is an ordinance to appropriate $125,000 to the Buildings General Department to demolish parish-owned buildings located at 609 and 610 Avenue A in Belchase. Mr. DeMarco went out and got some quotes from different companies, and that's what this amount of space on. Right now, it's a liability issue for the parish. I have pictures once a week of kids climbing on the roof of the barn that's located behind there and breaking into the houses. And we're trying to demolish these houses where the parish won't possibly get sued in the future.
Any comments from the audience? From the table?
Yeah, I was asking, where was it?
Please, QN.
And I queued back in.
Yeah, no.
Well, no, I want to talk.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So also, another thing where this is coming from the emergency fund, general fund doesn't have enough, but we are exploring different possibility of using the Louisiana Air National Guard to tear this down. We are meeting with them, Mr. DeMarco, Mr. Harvey, myself, I think Mr. DeMarco, I think you're coming up, maybe not. But a couple of us are meeting with them tomorrow to go over this, and hopefully they will tear it down for free. If so, then I will move this money right back into the emergency fund.
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, where's this at, where's this at?
This is at the end of Avenue A. What happened was back in the 90s, I guess, the base wanted a buffer zone for the runway. So they gave the parish a grant in order to buy out the parish, all that land. So the parish owns all the land, and the two houses that are here, part of the agreement was the parish was to buy the houses from the residents. So they've been abandoned since the 90s, I'm assuming. I think about that time, as long as I can remember. But within at least since I've taken office, I get complaints about it at least once a week, and pictures of kids on the roof and breaking into. I went back there. The boards are torn down. Kids are breaking in there. So we're just trying to prevent a lawsuit from the future.
Mr. Konovich.
I remember the base paid half and the parish paid half for that property, $9 million. But we can't use them buildings like they did over here one year and set them afire and let the fire departments train on it.
I joked about that, and it was a joke, and I was shot down. And the problem is if it with the field right there, if it catches fire and spreads, you're talking about bigger liability.
You're not doing a good job as a fireman.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not the chief. I'm just a firefighter.
I thought I got an email from somebody on that side not to use emergency funds no more. I thought it was from him.
It was from me, but do you want a lawsuit?
That emergency? I
Yes.
can burn them buildings for free.
I'm not saying that. What happens behind the scenes? If I get a call tonight because the building's on fire, I know who to blame.
Well, hey, we bought a building over here. We were supposed to put a library in it, and the fire department said it'll fire the train, they said.
Sure did. Giordano property.
Yes. I'm good.
Ms. McCarty.
So, Mr. Schultz, who did you say might tear down the building for free?
So my understanding, talking to Mr. Harvey during the training exercises last week, maybe the week before, the Louisiana Air National Guard has a unit that's what they do. I mean, that's what they do, but they sometimes work with parishes and local governments to practice tearing down houses and stuff. So hopefully, Mr. Harvey sent the letter Tuesday, I think, and we're meeting with them tomorrow. They're going to do assessment, and I think also an assessment on building on the government complex, correct? Yeah, so if my view is if we can get it for free,
Right.
let's go after it.
Excellent. I commend you for thinking out of the box.
I have to give all credit to Mr. Harvey. That was him.
Any more comments from the table? Administration? Machines are open.
Practice.
And the measure passes unanimously.
T, a resolution to amend and as amended, readopt resolution number 15-213 and rescind resolution 19-157 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Schultz.
I offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Schultz.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Newsom. Mr. Schultz.
So this is a resolution to reestablish the Recreation Committee to help the council evaluate recommendations in order to provide an efficient and reliable recreation department. Any recommendations will ultimately have to come to the vote of the council. We're just trying to get more involvement from the community to improve our recreation program. I know we had this in the past. My understanding, Mr. Gui, I know this was back in prior to 19, was a lot of the problems was they could never get a quorum sometimes. So what we're trying to do is hear from the parents, hear from the coaches on what we can do to help recreation, help this administration, and help this council make some changes where our kids have a program to use.
How are you gonna put this committee together? One from every district? Or?
No, hearing the feedback from the past, 9 members, it was hard to get the quorum, so I'm bumping it down to 5. 1 member will come from the East Bank, 2 members will come from districts 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 2 will come from 6, 7, 8, and 9. And my hope is that there's only 4 council members, so there's no quorum about talking about this. So I hope that y'all can get, the council members from those respective districts will get together, come up with some recommendations, and basically come together and recommend 2 people from your respective allocation. I know it's not the best way, but my understanding from the past, 9 members, they could never really get a quorum, and it never really worked out.
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, how many people consist of the recreation right now? How many people are part of recreation right now?
You talking about workers?
Yeah, because
I think technically 3. There's the director, a project coordinator, and the administrative workflow coordinator. So yes, there's technically only 3 people and that's part of the problem is we're trying to help them. We're trying to help Billy with, he's in charge of recreation, give him some recommendations. I commend you on some of the changes you have implemented on baseball as a coach. I'm telling other parents they have embraced the ideal of how we're doing baseball this year. So some changes, not all changes are favorable, but we're just trying to help out the parish.
Yeah, the reason why I like that because there's a lot of people developing teams, but they're not under recreation. You know, so people, has been asking me, what is the recreation in Plaquemine Parish? I said, I don't know.
Correct. There's
What is the recreation?
There's 3 teams that I know, at least for 7-8 boys baseball, because that's where my son is. There is a Phoenix recreation team
What's the name of the team?
Phoenix.
Good team.
So because I know we are coming to the East Bank for one game, and so I know there's so I don't know about every age level, but we're trying to work. That's why everybody will get representation on this committee, where throughout the parish we can improve our recreation program.
Yeah, this is a welcome thing. We would like to have this. It gives community input on a little bit higher level. And you don't have the whole community all coming with different opinions. It's a representative from the areas that bring those opinions to the table.
And also, what I hope this, and I talk to about people, is that sometimes with certain things going on, this committee will help lead volunteer efforts. I know with certain things, they're like, hey, can we volunteer to do this? So this will help have a central committee that can help lead the volunteer efforts where it doesn't all fall back on us. We're trying to get more community involvement.
You finished, Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, I'm through. I'm sorry, man.
Mr. Newsom?
Yes, this is, as most folks know, near and dear to me. I spent many days and nights out at the ball field, baseball field, during baseball season, football season. Spent many days back there coaching football with some super people. This will not do nothing more than help our recreation department to move it to the next level. Our recreation department, has no secret to nobody, has been falling down. Mr. Schultz took this, but this is something that's desperately needed. I am, part of my district will be considered with Ms. LaFrance, Mr. Jurich, Mr. Konovich, so I'll embrace it, and we're gonna come up with a great committee, and we're gonna move the recreation back to where it used to be, back to normal, back to where it was. It was very nice. Thank you.
Well, one of the problems we had was we moved all the workers from the recreation department to prom. And half of them quit or got transferred. You want to speak, Ms. McCarthy?
I was just going to say, one person has already contacted me to try and be interviewed for this board, so we might just reach out to people and say, contact your respective council members so that they can learn who you are, your qualifications, your interest, and desire to help.
Any more comments from the table? From administration? Machines are open. Dr. Reverend Edwards? Oh, he's absent. Let the record reflect that Reverend Edwards has stepped away. And the measure passes 8-0.
U, an ordinance to amend the 2023 manpower structure and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Jurisic.
I so offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Jurdich, seconded by Ms. McCarty. Mr. Jurdich.
Yes, this is just an ordinance to create and fund a part-time diesel maintenance mechanic position in the maintenance department. I think it's something that's long overdue.
Any comments from the audience? From the table? Administration? Machines are open. And the measures passes unanimously, 9-0. Next item, please.
V, an ordinance to enact section 222 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Kotnovich, and this has changes.
Could you do the changes?
Sir. On line 19, at the end of the original wording from the original introduction, there's being added the following language. Part-time administrative assistant shall work less than 28 hours per week, the specific schedule to be determined by the council member, and shall not be eligible for benefits. A number 2 has been added. All administrative assistants shall maintain a daily timesheet recording hours worked. Any full-time assistant shall take paid leave, or in the absence of available leave, take unpaid leave in a week in which the assistant works less than 40 hours. Number 3, administrative assistant shall work from the council member's office during ordinary business hours of the parish unless directed otherwise by the council member. Section 4, timesheets shall be provided to the payroll office in the parish finance department and the council member on a bi-weekly basis. On lines 28 and 30, in addition to Human Resources Department, the Civil Service Department has been added. And at the end of the original line 31, the following language has been included, including but not limited to pre-employment drug testing, except as inconsistent with this section, all employment policies and rules applicable to the unclassified employees shall apply to council administrative assistants. And on line 35, section I has been removed.
With that, I'll offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Newsom. Mr. Konovich?
Got with Mr. Garrett because these employees wasn't under no regulations or didn't have nothing on the books to follow for years. And we just took what the council people was doing at the time up until today. They work for you, you hire them, you fire them, and this is what we came up with.
Any comments from the audience? From the table, Ms. McCarty?
I want to say that I agree that we need structure and that the council member, I like the way it's written, that the council member designates the duties of the assistant. I also want to point out that it does not say or restrict a council member from calling their assistant a title like royal liaison or grand poobah, if that's what they chose to do. And if you need clarification on that, you can ask the attorneys.
Well, in our budget, we have line items for administrative assistants. We don't have a line item for grand poobah. So if you name him a grand poobah, I'd like to know where he's getting paid from, because civil service cannot move money from administrative assistant to grand poobah. Only this council could vote to move that money.
Well, I'm saying
Even to change somebody's title.
the way this is written, it
Even to
allows
change
you to-
somebody's title, it has to come before this board. We wanted to change Tony Henry's from a director to a manager, had to come before this board. And y'all had something a while back, might have been that one we just voted on, it was going from a director to a manager, but it has to come before the board to change anything. And I don't remember voting on either one.
Well, this is an unclassified position, and civil service does not classify it. And because of the way this is written, it does still allow a council member to call an assistant whatever that council member chooses.
You could call him whatever you want, but he's not getting paid under a grand poobah. We only have in the budget for administrative assistant. And if civil service signed papers to move money out of the administrative assistant to grand poobah, something's wrong here. And we're gonna investigate it, because that's,
Oh, well, if you're talking about what occurred earlier, I followed the requirements by civil service to the T, and it was put forth.
for one, they told you to go to the council chair to get him to sign this paper, and you could call him a grand poobah. They said that the judges and the DA do this. Well, the judges and the DA, we give them a lump sum. They name their people grand poobah or whatever they want, but it's a line item. We don't, it has to come before this board and get voted on, and you have to have 5 votes to change the title.
I did as the law required, and,
That's not the law. Civil service doesn't run this.
well, this is what was directed by civil service.
Let's move on. Reverend Edwards?
Well, first of all, because I have an administrative assistant, I really want to call her grand poo-poo, whatever y'all was calling, because that sounds like something you need toilet paper with. So I hope we can get that language out of this conversation. My concern when I first saw using the term executive assistant, my problem with that, as a council member, we're not executive. We're a legislative body. We're legislative. This is executive. So how can I make my administrative assistant executive assistant when I'm not an executive? And I just think that we have to be consistent with what we do. Again, when I got hired for this position, I don't care if I was a scientist, a former president of the United States, the job description for councilman is what councilman. The job description for administrative assistant is what it is. So if I come in as a former scientist, I have to decide, well, am I overqualified for this position? Because this is what the position called for. I am not for changing the name from administrative assistant. That's what it need to be, and we got to be consistent. We cannot have where one district have another name for the administrative assistant, everybody. That, to me, that don't show no unity, and it's just out of place. And then, I just had a problem. So I'm going to support this because when I first saw the title executive assistant, I didn't understand what that was about because, again, we are not executive. And again, we cannot compare this, and I know we always keep saying this is a business, but we're not business people. So if I get hired attorney, who say that, man, I was attorney, I want to work for you. Hey, man, this is administrative position. The other thing for me about this is that most of the administrative assistants we've had so far have been women. And for the first time, we get a man as administrative assistant, he's called executive. Just some of that kind of stuff mess with my mind. Just some of that. And not saying that was the intention, but it's, we always had women in this position. Now we got a man, he have to be, and I'm not saying that is, but it can be referred to people. Now that we got a man in the administrative position, he's got to be executive. I'm just saying that's some of the stuff.
I want you to know that.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
I'm through.
Mr. Schultz?
So first of all, thank you, Havo, or Mr. Konovich, for putting this forward because, as you stated, we had nothing for them. And this kind of clears up some of them. And to me, it shows that our council assistants are just like every other parish employee. They're equal. They have to abide by the same rules that civil service does, all that. So that's the main thing that I like. As a response to the name, to me, maybe Mr. Garrett can clarify, but the whole section is called Council Administrative Assistants. To me, that means that's their title. And then throughout, in different places, the title is capitalized, Council Administrative Assistant. Example, at the end of line 31. So I don't see where, and I talked to Ms. Lambert when this all came up, and for the most part, she basically said that it does need to come to a vote of the council. So what she did, I understand you followed what she said, but she was wrong. Plain and simple. I mean, and Mr. Garrett can maybe expand upon that on it requires a vote because our budget books, our manpower tables, everything says administrative assistant. So for her to change the budget to what executive assistant, that's just my opinion on this. But overall, I think the whole thing is good because it puts rules in place for our council assistants that way we're trying to get our act together as a parish government.
Ms. McCarty?
I forgot, Edwards. The fact that this is a 9-person board, and I happen to be the only female, does not make it a sexist thing that I was elected because I'm a female. The fact that all the men who are council members have chosen to have female assistants does not make it a sexist thing, nor the fact that I hired a male. Does that make it a sexist thing that I called him something different? It's not because he's a male. I mean, there are high qualifications among other assistants, and you could call yours whatever you want. But the fact that I changed the name is because I needed that name because of the way that I'm using my assistant. I am having my assistant represent me at other venues. He speaks for me. He speaks with me, he speaks for me, and this particular person has been an executive at a Fortune 500 company, and he is the chairman of a very large entity. He handles millions of dollars every day. He has the ability to advise me on things, and that's why I chose this person. Not because he was a man or that I needed to call him executive assistant, but when I send him to somebody's office, I chose that title because I want people to know that that person is speaking for me, and that is consistent with that type of position. That's it. He still gets paid the same thing as any other administrative assistant. He still adheres to everything on the sheet as every other administrative assistant. That's it.
Mr. Konovich?
Well, again, the budget says administrative assistants. Civil service can't change it. And it's not sexist you hiring or we hiring females, males, but if I'm a administrative assistant that's sitting in the audience right now, and what they calling the man executive over me, so now I could sue you for discrimination. Why can't I be called the best assistant?
You can.
No, you can't. Just like I can't be called the grand poobah of the council. I'm a councilman District 9. And I'll let you know, like I let Mr. Blink know 4 years ago, this isn't the council according to Ms. McCarty. It takes 9 members to do something, it takes 5 votes to get it passed. So if you wanted to change his name, you should have came to us, voted on it, and it might have got changed. I wanted to move my office to the museum just to keep the museum open. I had to get a vote of this council to do that. Now,
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, again, my administrative assistant can go and represent me, but to put the term executive on that, to saying that she is more than any other executive because she have a bachelor degree or she have a master degree. To me, when you got that position, again, as I said earlier, it didn't ask that you had to be a member of a Fortune 500 company. That's not the requirement to be a council administrative assistant. Now, I do some stuff that I have, but everything I do is as a councilman, and there's certain things that the administration have to do. That's their job. That's not my job. I can only do things that I was elected to do as a councilman. So when my administrative assistant can go out and represent me, she don't need to have executive on it. She's saying I'm representing the councilman of District 1, and she only gonna do the things that I asked her to do. So I just think to say that, again, to me, is creating a hierarchy. To saying that if a person who comes in who been a former president of the United States, or been over a corporation, that they should be deemed as having more value. It's almost like you saying that your administrative system had more value and more qualification than any of our
Mr.
administrative
Chairman, I'd like to
assistants.
call a question.
Yeah.
This can go on forever.
Right.
Yeah,
I
agree
did
with
not say
you.
more value.
Okay.
I'd like the attorneys to speak.
Call a question for the vote.
Question has been called for.
Can the attorney speak?
Question has been called for. Machines has open. Ms. McCarty. And the measure passes 8-4, 1 abstention. Next item, please.
10, approval of the minutes from the April 13th, 2023 regular meeting.
That was the vote on on the calling of the question. That vote passed. Now, the question is called, so now you vote on the matter with no further debate.
Machines are open. We just voted on the question. So now we have to move back to the original ordinance for a vote.
Is it impossible for the attorneys to give a legal opinion on this?
Question has been called for. Machines are open. Mr. Champagne? This is for the,
From the attorneys.
Ms. McCarty?
You really should hear from the attorneys.
And the measure passes 8-4, 1 abstention. We'll move to the next item, please.
10, approval of the minutes from the April 13th, 2023 regular meeting.
Offer. We have a motion by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Machines is open. Reverend Edwards?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The attorneys.
And the measure passes 9-0. Next item, please.
11B, District 9, update, Councilmember Kotnovich, discussion about ambulances.
I think we caught that.
I just have one, the pool. Did we ever get somebody the YMCA pool?
I was at Port Sulphur yesterday, and they were measuring that pool up. I didn't talk to them, but I hate to say, I would assume that they were going down to Buras as well.
All right.
Yeah. We'll check up on that right there.
I met with the contractor Monday morning, and we went assess both YMCA pools in Port Sulphur and Buras. And we're going to try and move forward with some more bids, but we are assessing both pools.
Can we go back on the company that did the work last time and try to get our money back since they didn't fix nothing?
I don't have a problem with that, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item, please.
C, District 6, update.
Withdrawn.
Next item.
D, oh, we did D2, okay.
Yeah.
D1, update on community center and recreation.
I think we did that.
Oh, yeah.
E,
Yeah.
District 8, update. 1, discussion about the shipyard slip in Empire.
And this is just a quick question. I know we talked about, we have the funding in place, I believe, Jeff, to get this thing started. There's some Restore Act money, and it's becoming a real problem now. We got to get moving on this. We need to get this thing engineered, designed, and get to work on it. That's what I want, I want to see something happen with this ASAP, because it's becoming a problem for all the fishermen in and out the harbor, because of that shipyard slip. All the whole commercial fishing fleet and recreational fleet is being hampered because of the floodgate having to close. So I would just like to see some action get started on this ASAP. And we already talked about item number 2 with the lights, so that's it, that's all I have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before you ask for an adjournment, I'd just like to invite everyone out. The Seafood Fest is this weekend, starts tomorrow evening, and hopefully the weather's going to, go in a little better direction that they're calling it for. But it's Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Please come on out.
Thank you. And before,
Yeah, I've got I have it for you.
Do I have a parking spot?
Yeah. If wherever you want to park, bro, come on in.
and before we adjourn, I know the employees are asking everyone, they're asking everyone about a raise.
Well, here's what I can say about that. Is last year, during the campaign, you guys, or the previous council did approve and appropriated a raise for them. But just like when Dr. Gouy and I, when we were on the council, we approved a raise at that time. And we knew immediately it was not enough. And I can guarantee you, I knew immediately when you guys did it, it was not enough. So whatever we need to do here and work together, let's figure it out, because we really do need to come up with some more money for the employees, because we're losing them. And they're not, I mean, it's tough enough to get employees anyway, much less with the kind of salaries that we're offering. It's just, the benefits are great. And that's one thing a young person needs to consider when you come work for the government. I mean, if you come in at 18 or 20 or even 25 years old, 30 years from now, at the most, you're 55 years old, you can get 100% of your salary. But, so here's the thing. I'm going to get off that soapbox real quick.
Yeah.
But, look, let's get together. I know we sit and talk we have our ongoing meetings. So let's talk and come up with a solution and see what direction we want to go. If there's the existing, that Archer study, is there another, I guess we have to pull it out, look at it, if there's another implementation that we can do before we spend more money on it? Or do we have to spend, okay, so let's maybe come together and figure out how we can appropriate more money to figure out a raise for the employees.
Okay.
I'm good with that, guy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to adjourn? We have a motion by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Newsom. Machines are open.
Councilman Evans?
Reverend Edwards?
Oh, I'm sorry.
He wants to hang out.
No. Right.
And the measure passes 9-0.
Wanna go, that's for sure.
We have adjournment at 7:17.